Well, everybody was excited to get here today, I guess. We still got about 2 minutes. Zeke, get up and tell us a joke. Anybody else volunteers? All right. We'll probably get close enough.
He is going, I would like him to just do the presentation he did to us, just that he did to us.
That's fine.
Before the hearing.
That's fine.
If we can.
Yeah, that's fine. How long is he going to take?
Probably, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe?
Let's try to keep him down to 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll probably be close enough. Welcome, everybody. Is everybody signed in the back? All right. Has everybody turned off their cell phones? Good. All righty. Today we're going to start out with the pledge, and the Pledge of Allegiance is going to be by Gennie Bird. Prayer will be by Ken Campbell.
I think prayers first.
Yeah. Prayer's Ken Campbell. I'm sorry.
Would you mind letting me see the mic? And make sure it's on? Okay. It's that red button.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful at this time to come together as members of the local community and as leaders of Uintah County, and we give Thee thanks for this great Uintah Basin. We're grateful for the beauty and for Thy hand in creating it all. We ask Thee that Thou might help us today to find civility, that we can maintain civility as we discuss difficult prospects and difficult subjects. We ask Thee that Thou might help us that our minds might be opened unto positive solutions that are good for all of us, or as many as can be made. We're grateful for these opportunities and for those who make sacrifice in their lives to administer in these affairs. We ask Thee again for Thy Spirit to be with us as we do this, and we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ken.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Thank you, Danny. All right, report of, approval of minutes. Any questions, comments, changes, motions?
I would make a motion to approve the... I'm not on? Thank you. I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 10th, 2023 meeting.
We have a motion.
No second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Report of warrants.
Commissioners, we have warrants from October 12th in the amount of $237,637.42. Only one on there I wanted to point out on that one is a check to Axion Enterprises for $29,160. That includes a partial payment from a prior year, and the balance of it will be made up in the next year. Also, the next check run October 19th of 2023. This one had several that we need to bring out on. First one is a check to Denial Gale Special Expenditures, $71,000. Another one to Hollingsworth Law Office for $34,200. And Ken Garf Ford. This purchased 8 new vehicles for the Sheriff Department, $488,005. Check to Lonnie DeLand for $24,800. And a check to Structured Assignments for $1,120,000. And I do have some claims today.
What's the total on those, Mike?
Oh, total on that one, sorry. That was the 19th. Total was $2,425,900. $979.65.
Thank you.
Okay, claims today is the first one is check number 388399 to Gracie Global LLC for $22,500. This was the training that the sheriff did for all the ladies in the community, and we need to approve that one. Next one was check number 388411 to K&W Trucking. This was emergency water services at the racetrack. Our truck broke down. Axion Enterprises.
How much was that one?
Oh, that one was, sorry about that, $5,727.50. Next one is check number 388483 to Axon Enterprises, $29,160. Next one is check number 388614, Denial Gale, $71,000. Next one is check number 388619, Hollingsworth Law Office, LLC, $34,200. Next one, check number 388637 to Lonnie F. DeLand, Inc., $24,800. And the final one to check number 388672 for Structured Assignments SCC for $1,120,000 even. Where's our legal
Could you repeat
counsel?
that? Sorry.
Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept those counterclaims. Certified list of claims as presented by Auditor Wilkins.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion, second. Any comments? Okay, all righty. Everybody in favor? All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. All right. Tax matters, Wendi Long.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have 3 tax matters to bring before you today. The first one is a property that is in the name of Uintah. The serial number is 501585056. There were 2 years, 2021 and 2022, when it showed up on our tax rolls that it had a value on it, but there was a miscalculation on the tax notice and it resulted in a 0 balance. And so we need to go back and capture those taxes for 2021 and 2022. The amount for 2021 is $13,415.17, and for 2022 it's $8,644.80. This was an isolated incident. There were no other properties that this miscalculation was made on any other properties. It had to do with the tax district that it was in. And for 2023, they have been charged the regular tax amount that they should be. So the total amount is $22,059.97 that will be added to the property tax.
I did have one question. Is that total tax? That's not just the county?
That is total tax.
That is total
That is
tax
total tax
all
for all the
taxing entities.
taxing entities, yes.
Okay.
Okay. What are you needing from us? A motion to accept that? How do you want that? What do we have?
A
how do we-
motion to approve the adjustment on Uintah Resources.
Any questions, comments, or motions?
I would make a motion that we accept money. We accept the amount. I have them
Approve the
separated.
adjustment.
Yes, the adjustment as presented by Wendi.
Have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, I have 2 others that are similar. These 2 properties are in the name of Uintah Basin Association of Governments, or UBAG. I brought 2 or 3 of these before you a couple of weeks ago, and this is the same scenario. The property was in the name of UBAG, and they have since sold those properties to individuals. And so we leave the tax on the property knowing that those are going to be sold to individuals, and at that point, it has to have a tax put on it. But because it was in the name of UBAG prior to that, the prior taxes for the year, I think it was from January to September that it was in the name of UBAG, and those taxes need to be abated. So the first one is serial number 1704200216 in the amount of $243.32. That will be adjusted off of that serial number. And now it is in the name of the new owner. The second one is serial number 1704200207 in the amount of $243.32 as well. And that also is abating that's the tax amount from January to September as well. So
I'm sorry, what was the first amount?
the first one was also $243.32,
Okay.
and the second was $243.32.
All right. Any questions, comments, motions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we abate those taxes as presented by Ms. Long.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, the RFP award for cemetery irrigation line. Zeke?
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Hi, Commissioners. Zeke Atwood, Purchasing and Grants Office. We have this RFP that we put out for bid, and we had a three-panel RFP committee get together and evaluate and score. We received two bids, one from Baco Supremo and one from Stubbs and Stubbs. We had a water line breakdown at the cemetery that runs under Vernal Avenue that they're replacing. We had the three-panel committee meet together, and they set forth 7 different categories of criteria, and then they weighted those accordingly to what was most important, least important, and then each member scored each submission based on how they responded to that request, and then they were given a score. Baco Supremo was the high bid. They came in at $146,670. Stubbs and Stubbs was the low bid at $72,850. Baco Supremo was the winner of the technical criteria category, and then obviously they got the cost points based on the cost that was submitted. With the final result, so all that's weighted and given a score. Stubbs and Stubbs was the overall winning bid with 151.33 points, and Baco Supremo had 147.13 points. So the recommendation from the committee is to award this RFP to Stubbs and Stubbs for $72,850.
All right, any questions, comments, motions?
I would follow the recommendation of the committee and make a motion to award this bid for, what is the total $72,850 to Stubbs and Stubbs?
Okay, we have a motion.
No, second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay, thanks, Zeke. Okay, Heidi, State Homeland Security Program Grant Award and Acceptance.
Heidi Lundberg, Emergency Management. We have received a grant from the Division of Emergency Management in the amount of $202,081.90. And this is for public safety and emergency management.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Oh, just good job.
Now, some of that includes
Grants
regional monies.
Yeah, so this is a regional grant that we have been awarded. This is Uintah County's portion of the projects that we submitted. So Duchesne got a portion and Daggett County also. So,
Okay.
and the performance period is from September 1, 2023 to January 31 of 2026.
Okay, All right.
That means that's when we have to use the money?
Correct.
Before then.
Yes.
You already have a plan for that?
Yes, yes. We
Very
already
good.
have projects. We have to submit projects to the state. They have to be approved, and then also through FEMA as well. So.
Okay.
Okay, all righty. I know those grants take a lot of work.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, what you're
Thank
doing
you.
there, so. All right, we need a motion to,
I'd make a motion to accept the grant from State Homeland Security as presented by Ms. Lundberg.
did we have a motion?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Let me just hand this back to you if you want. Oh, she, okay. Okay. All right, Jenny Bird.
Jenny Bird, Purchasing and Grants Department. I have a grant award agreement from the Division of Outdoor Recreation in the amount of $32,000. County match $8,000 for a project total of $40,000. This is for 2 equipment trailers for Trails Crew. So we were awarded a grant in the spring cycle for 2 pieces of equipment, and then these trailers will go along with that for trail maintenance and restoration in the county. So I just need, if you accept this, if you'll include your approval for an electronic signature.
All right, any
Okay.
questions, comments, motions?
Is this isn't to do with the OHV grant, this is a different grant?
We have several OHV grants. This is one of
One
the
of them.
OHV grants, yes.
But I mean, are they all tied to the registration fees paid? And then
Yes.
they distribute them throughout the state?
Yeah, it's competitive, so we have to apply, but that is what it's tied to.
Okay. I would make a motion that we approve the grant agreement in the amount of $32,000
Yes.
as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tonya Craven, health benefit proposal. I think she needs to turn the air conditioner off. Is the air conditioner running? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the air conditioner,
I
not
think
the
you got the air
heater.
conditioner on up here.
It's chilly. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if the TVs are on. And I'm short, so I can't reach them. Oh, there we go. Okay, Tonya Craven, Human Resources. So we have exhausted several different quotes from different agencies and entities throughout to try and come up with the best quotes that we could for the county for our new 2024 healthcare season, not only considering the medical, but then also life, dental, vision, EAP, and other supplemental plans as well. After doing that and having multiple meetings, these are the 3 plans that would be financially the best to put forward for a consideration for the commission to look at. You can see that Cigna, we are showing the current premium that is available that we're currently have with Cigna. They are our level funded program that we utilize, which means that depending on how our plan runs, we can all access and have funding, but that's returned back to the county. Regions Blue Cross Blue Shield as a fully funded, and Select Health as a fully funded. All 3 plans, or all 3 carriers, provide a administrative credit that's typically utilized at the first billing cycle at the beginning of the year, and which will reduce their percentage that they show as their overall premium as your renewal. Cigna started out was a 13.88% renewal because they obviously know how our plan runs because we've been with them for multiple years. And with their credit, their renewal is at 8.87. Blue Cross Blue Shield, with their credit, they were at 7.80. With an administrative credit, their renewal would be at 2.63. Select Health at 10.46. With a $335,000 administrative credit would be 1.79. A couple of just things to consider when you're looking at that are your networking areas. Cigna and Blue Cross do utilize University of Utah, as we've discussed in our meetings. Select Health is an IHC carrier only, so that would have some disruption to the staff that is already set up with those providers that are with University of Utah. All providers use primary children, so that's won't be affected in any way. But that would be just something that I would like the commission to consider as they look at the medical. Do you have any questions as far as that goes before I move on?
Fine. We can move on.
Okay, there are quite a few things, and then I will just kind of circle back. This just shows our different comparables as far as count or different. I'm so used. We've talked about so many different counties and different other conversations, but these are hospitals. They're not counties. So it shows Intermountain Healthcare's where they are as far as all the different hotels, different hospitals. My mind, Mountain Star, and then U of U.
Tonya, if you look at
Yes.
that, we're cutting off half of that.
Are you just trying to show us Select Health though right now? 'Cause
Yes.
I wondered
Okay.
if that was just that column.
Yes, sorry. So it just to show you the kind of a difference in what they can provide. And then
And that is Select Health, but
That
yet it
is-
showed
yeah.
U of U was covered. It had
well,
that
it just
mark.
shows their, I don't know why, because I'm over here. Let me center that. So it was Cigna, Regents, and Select Health, so it'll show you which hospitals are on the, marked as shows which ones are available for which plan. So what Cigna, and then the preferred value care, because that's the plan that we asked to be provided out, because that is the larger network for Blue Cross Blue Shield. They actually bid out 2 different plans, but the value care plan was the one that covered most of gave us the broader scope of all of that. And then Select Health.
Can you go down?
Yep. My screen's not letting me, so it's I'm sorry, it's kind of doing it in crunches. And then, so Mountain Star's not in the Select Health. And then U of U, obviously they're not there. And then Idaho, there's those.
Now, am I wrong, or does it show Huntsman as a cancer treatment only under Select Health?
Yes.
I'm not sure why that would be anything different. It's a Huntsman Cancer Hospital. I don't know why they had to list that. Do you go there for other things?
I wouldn't. Would you want to go? I'm not familiar with
Oh, you have to come
with
up
why
to the
that was
mic,
put in there.
Tim.
All right, yep, you need to. He put this chart together for me, so you can speak to that.
Tim King, GBS Benefits. On the Huntsman Cancer Institute with the Intermountain Healthcare System and the Select Health quote, they actually have a branch of the Huntsman Cancer Center at the IHC facility on 53rd. You would go there first, and if you were diagnosed and needed treatment, then they would transition you to the Huntsman Center up on the U of U, but you have to go through the IMC facility first with Select Health. It doesn't totally exclude the coverage at Huntsman. It's just a different process with Select Health on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. All right, so that shows the differences there. And I don't know if you want to go through the rest of that, but then we'll move on to the medical comparisons. We have already reviewed these plan options, but I just wanted to make them be available for today. So you can see where we were currently with Cigna. And then if we were to stay with Cigna, where our premiums would come in. They do also offer a $30,000 credit, which isn't applied to our administrative for wellness, and $20,000 for tech. That is an additional incentive benefit for our employees. So that shows our total combined cost as without the administrative built into that. This is the Blue Cross Blue Shield. And this again is showing without the administrative credit built into it as the 7.8. They have the $200,000 credit applied, and then upon a renewal, if we would stay within, there would be another $100,000. So there was some question in earlier discussions about a rate cap for the next year, and it's an actual $100,000 renewal credit, not the whole, like we thought it, like there was conversation about earlier. And then Select Health. They were obviously here, but then they have that very large administrative, that's what brings them down, is that administrative credit, because they have the $330,000 applied credit. So otherwise they're at the 10.46, which is comparable. Now the heater's on because I can smell something burning.
Yeah.
Might be the box elder bugs in there.
Yeah. Let me know, Sonia, if there's any flying around there. 'Cause Wendy's that way in the back, so she can't tell me. All right, with dental, there was Cigna and United Healthcare. Those were the best one, came through. Cigna is showing 7.7% and United Health at 3% as renewal. And then that's just the comparables. The vision, there was no change for Cigna, so obviously that would be the one we would move forward with. United Health was 6.55. And then those are the comparables there. Our life AD&D are locked in quotes from the previous year, so those amounts as far as that, those percentages are the same. And these just shows what our benefits are for the public. So we have those, let me go back one. So we have the life insurance of $50,000, AD&D at $250,000, spouse is $5,000, and child is $2,500. And then basic life and how those are configured. And those are what our annual totals are. We have our supplemental plans as well, if the employee chooses to add additional life insurance and their costs. Disability, we are also with Lincoln Life with our disability plan, which we made sure that worked with our URS as well, that we went to a long research last year to make sure that was all working well with URS and did all of that paperwork. So we're still locked in with them. And then all of our supplemental plans, we went through this during our workshop yesterday and saw the employees that were taking advantage of the supplemental plans. I have had multiple employees that have gotten money back by filing claims by utilizing these supplemental plans, and so I would encourage us to continue offering these. These are not anything that the county has to pay into, or these are completely voluntary plans that the employees just choose to pick up as they go. And then our EAP. This was one that I also asked GBS to look into. We have been utilizing HealthJoy. Oh.
Warm enough.
Oh, I'm like, does may have some, yeah, now I'm feeling a bit toasty.
A little hot.
So HealthJoy is a app which gives us lots of benefits if our staff is utilizing it. It can also help lower our total cost premium if they're utilizing it to do the telehealth. We've used it for 2 years, and with pulling our last report on our utilization, it's not been as beneficial for utilizing it as for the expectations that we had when we first used it. I love the app, but just because I love it doesn't mean that all of 260 other employees love it. So we do have unlimited EAP in-person sessions, and through Blomquist Health. The only thing that I see is that the worksite services are not included. But one thing that I did ask for last year that the commission approved was an additional $20,000 to go into EAP, just in case we have those worksite visits, because we do have debriefings and things of that nature that we need to have those worksite visits. And we've had other opportunities with other offices where things have happened, and we've had to bring an on-site counselor on to help work with those employees and work through what's happening in those in those departments, and that wouldn't be included with Bloomquist, but they are a good EAP program. So that's just something to be considered with that quote as well. So those are all of the benefits. The main ones that we need to look at right now are the medical, the dental, vision, EAP. And we need to try and, if possible, make a decision on that today, because if there are any major changes, there's a lot of behind-the-scene building that has to be taking place in our IT to get that ready and up and going for open enrollment. And it does take quite a bit of time. So I'll go back to the top. Unless you have questions about another area.
I did have a question.
Yes.
When you were going over dental and vision,
Yes.
I believe there was only one for vision that you had up there, Cigna. You said United Healthcare was the
Oh.
same, I think, so it would have been a
Dental.
dental.
Let's see. Oh, there it was. Nope, where'd it go? Vision. So Vision is Cigna and United Healthcare. Vision, because Cigna gave us 0 increase.
So that one would stay the same.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I think dental was before that. No, yes.
Okay.
And
So it'd
Cigna
be-
7 and United was 3.07.
You know how much that, I guess the annual premium shows you the difference. It's about $8,000 difference.
So, let's see, so Cigna for dental right now. So this would be with the increase, combined total, 18,869, and these are with the amount of people that are currently enrolled. One of the other options that we're looking at or requesting is if the right now we're on a cafeteria plan. And so one of the things that was proposed was previously we had been on a bundle where we had everyone, if you had medical insurance, you also had dental and vision. You didn't have to go and select those. One of the things that we have noticed with our digital process is that we have had to go back in and have people have just skipped it. They meant to select dental or they meant to select vision, and just because they didn't realize they had to select it, they've missed it, and we've had to go back and replace it. So possibly moving back into that bundle, and if you choose your insurance and you're opting into the healthcare for the county, that it's bundled together as one cost for the for your medical benefit for the county. And the other was, instead of having 3 plans, having HSA and having the $1,000 value plan and removing the basic plan. So I know I brought a lot for you to consider, and I'd like an answer today.
Well, I just have, I guess, a couple more questions. One is, if we selected a certain medical provider, but then a different dental, different vision, is that more complicated? Does it add more costs or time if we do that than bundling all together?
If we're bundling, I think that administratively on the back end, that would be for the clerk, because they're the ones that are going to be paying the billing out, right? So for us, it's a matter of just building it in the IT program. So,
Nothing really that you could see, maybe?
yeah, I mean, it would take a little bit of time, because right now we're all through, throughout. We're streamlined. We're with Cigna for all of the things. So, but it's not as though we're getting a price break because we chose Cigna for this and this. We broke it out in a different way.
But if we went with Regents, we would still have to have Cigna or United Healthcare then for vision or?
Well, we could look back at what their quotes were.
But we don't have to.
Yeah, the ones that we provided were the most competitive as far as the increase. So their dental and their vision percentages were higher than what we proposed. Yeah, come on up,
I was
Tim.
going to ask Tim if he had anything to add.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Tim King, GBS Benefits. My suggestion, commissioners, would be if whatever decision you make medically, make that as far as the carrier. On the dental and vision, I would suggest you stay with one carrier for both of those for ease of administration. So if you elect a medical carrier, and then on dental and vision, I would either go with Cigna on both of those or go with United Healthcare on both of those and keep those together, because I think from an EDI feed process from your benefits platform, Employee Navigator, feeding over to the carrier, if you had one each for each one of those products, I think it would be a little bit more cumbersome. So I would select for dental and vision one carrier to go with there.
Okay, thank you.
Now, are most of our specialists, would it change if we went to a different, from Cigna? Like a lot of people have certain specialists, the guys that come out from Salt Lake or the gals that come out from Salt Lake, would that change?
Between Regents and Cigna, the network is almost identical from facilities to providers. Select Health in the rural market would be the same as Cigna and Blue Cross. It would just be, Commissioner Larson, when you go into the metropolitan area, you would utilize the IHC facilities out on the Wasatch Front, rather than currently with the University of Utah, Mountain Star, and now the Holy Cross system. That's what you utilize with Cigna or Blue Cross. So mainly the difference in providers would be on the Wasatch Front and those facilities you would access out there with Select Health.
The hard part about this is there's pros and cons to each of them, so it's trying to weigh out.
Well, and the dollar amount, you know what I'm saying, you gotta put
Yeah.
that into play, and it's,
It is, but I do know if we, in my past experience, once you get past, I mean, I'm surprised they gave a cap for next, an additional year, because usually that's where they make up the difference.
That's rare. You don't see
very rare.
Yeah.
cap offering on medical,
But that's on-
disability, those type of things. You'll see a 2-year rate guarantee, but one carrier to offer a second-year rate cap on a new group is unique.
Yes, because in my experience, it goes up substantially from the first year usually. There, it's kind of like they hook you and reel you in, and then they give you the higher rate, because it is difficult to change carriers. I mean, every time you change, that's quite a disruption.
Yes, it is a disruption.
you're wanting us to give you a final answer today.
Yes.
I know Sonia, Commissioner
We've talked
Norton has
about
spent
it a lot.
a lot of time on this. We had, you know, she's been, you know, over the health issues there, the department, you know, the insurance there. The only question I had, it might be for Mr. King, any adjustment on the administration cost per employee? It was $26, I think, per employee.
Yeah, it's about, as far as.
Is
from
there any
carrier to
room there
carrier.
to negotiate?
So we've got that spreadsheet here.
So Commissioner Horrocks, I would assume what you're referring to is the broker compensation. Is that correct on as far as, so currently right
that's
now,
them. They're the
is
brokers.
that what,
Yeah.
on the
Yes,
PEPM
yeah.
basis? So currently right now, and it has been that way since we took over the case at the end of 2021, the broker compensation has not changed with Cigna for the last 3 years. We've retained that same compensation that was being paid at the time with the prior broker. And that amount was $17.61 per employee per month that our commission is. And then the dental is $1.46 per employee per month. And then because of our block of business that we have with different insurance carriers, our agency receives an override from the carrier that doesn't impact the premiums at all with the group. So that's been the current compensation that's been in place.
$17.61 plus the $1.45.
$1.46 for dental.
46.
Medical $17.61, dental's $1.46, and then we receive an override of 1.5% on premium because of block of business with our agency. So that's the current.
That's how I come up with the $26 dollars. I thought I read it in there somewhere. but-
Yeah, there's the $26, I'm not quite sure where the 26 comes from, but that's our current compensation. In the agreement that we signed with the county when we took over as brokers, in that document, John and I, we visited about it, and in the document that's signed, it says that our compensation will be held at what it's currently in force until December 31st of 2021. And then beginning January 1st, 2022, GBS will receive standard commissions from insurance carriers not to exceed 3% of premium. We haven't changed that. The quotes that we've gotten from the carriers like Blue Cross and Select Health, when we send those out to bid, what's assumed by the carrier at that time is those rates that are given to us through negotiation just include the standard 3% commission. And so it's not gonna impact any rates or anything like that if you change carriers. What that's set at is no more than what we have currently in the agreement, that those standard commissions cannot exceed more than 3%. So, Commissioner, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's, when you talk about the PEPM, I would assume that's the question you had from a compensation standpoint. And we usually don't until you make a decision. If there's, for some reason, some desire to talk about our compensation, last year we gave a transparency document to you that disclosed exactly what we were paid. If there's a conversation, if you elect Blue Cross or Select Health, and you want to have conversation about our compensation on one of those carriers at the standard commission, we're happy to do that.
You did say that what you signed when you came on was the same as the previous broker?
Right, for the end of that year.
Okay.
And then moving forward from 2022, which we haven't changed that at all because it's stayed with Cigna, it's remained that compensation. But from 2022 on, the maximum that we could go to would be the standard commission at the 3%, which is most of the time when carriers present or give us quotes, that's what they include in their quote.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I think I've asked all the questions I need to ask previously to this. I've got most of my answers.
It may seem a little bit higher, but after looking at everything and evaluating what fees would occur next year and breaks, credits, I still feel with less disruption to stay with Cigna with all three in the package, all three.
You know, they're a little more money, but the disruption, what does that cost us?
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, and I would, you know.
And typically, like I said, in my experience, if we go more than 2 years, we will probably see, I'm guessing, an extensive rate hike or increase.
Renewal
Increase in premium costs, because they are continually going up every year, it seems like. And so for them to be able to hold it at 12%, I would be surprised if we went on that and a third year.
Cigna, this is our third year, would be our third year with Cigna, and they're still coming with their administrative to be at 8%. So that's under what Select Health is guaranteeing for their second year.
That's
What I would like to see is, I think Cigna is going to be our best bet at this particular time. However, I would like to change the EAP to Bloomquist Health, where they've got unlimited. I think that's much better. 5 is not going to cure the problem 99% of the time. But I would also, and if you don't mind, I'd make a motion to accept Cigna for the next year with the supplemental vision and dental also through Cigna, with the EAP changed over to Bloomquist Health with a $20,000 addition to the EAP in case we need worksite assistance.
Can I ask, thank you first, but one more ask. And I wrote this down just because we have fallen behind a little bit, and this is just an additional, I haven't had an opportunity to go into the finance with you, but for our plan builds and for our HSA, currently we're giving $1,250 as a guarantee and $2,500 as a guarantee to our HSAs, and the IRS contribution rates are going up to $8,400 or $8,300 to a family and $4,100 to a self. So I was wondering, I would like for the commission to increase the guaranteed amount into the HSA and then do the match on top of that to show because we haven't increased our guarantee to match the IRS contribution rates every year. We kept them at the standard same amount when we did this 3 years ago. And what that would be is the self would be a guarantee of $1,000 with a match amount of $1,575, and the two-party family would be a guarantee of $3,000 with a match of $2,650 for the dollar-for-dollar match. And then that would get the employees to be able to reach the maximum amount of HSA contributions into their funding and stay with the same line as far as contribution amounts into HSA per year.
How much total would that cost us above and beyond what we did last year?
It could depend on what we look like for people enrolling into the HSA plan. I don't have the total amount of what HSA contributions were because it also depends on if people participate in the match.
Well, I'm not quite ready to, we can go ahead and do the other.
Yeah.
But that stuff there.
Right.
we've
We
got
can
that-
discuss the
we've got
HSA
to have the
more.
figures on that before we can go ahead and prove something like that. I feel like.
I concur.
Okay.
We have a motion.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Ken Campbell. Blacktail contract, redtail. Seeing if everybody's awake.
I noticed immediately that they turned up the heat on her and turned it back down for me, so I'm good with that.
Boy, now I'm about to freeze again.
There it is. There you go.
If we could hit a happy medium. Get a happy medium up here somewhere.
Don't give it to Sonya, we'll be 105.
No, she usually keeps it down lower than I do, yeah. I kinda like the way she, all right.
Good afternoon to the commissioners and good afternoon to the community. I'm Ken Campbell. I'm the director of the airport. Yesterday in the work session, I handed out a copy of a contract for a company called Red Tail Air. That contract has been through the city processes where they approved it after one change. That contract before the change has been through Mr. Sturmer and Mike, the law guy over at the city, Harrington, thank you. Mike Harrington. They both approved that before this one change. On the very back page yesterday in the work session, I mentioned that the company would like to change a place where if the economy changes by 10%, they would be able to change the price of this ticket. They wanted to change that 10% to 30%, and there was a question asked to me about why. The answer that I got doing a little bit of research, I visited with them today, they were in town again, and their answer was during 2020, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, very quickly, overnight, aviation fuel doubled. So now that we're involved in another conflict that looks maybe even worse, their fear is that that could happen to them again and sink this contract. It's a thought process. So I propose that the county now approve the contract with Redtail with the stipulation that we do change that 10% to a 30%, and it has already been approved through the city.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Nope.
Very exciting that this, that what you put in place here, Ken. It's gonna be, it's gonna take, I feel like, a little bit of time to get established.
Agreed.
Get used to the get used to it and stuff like that, but you've done a lot of work on that, and thank you. Okay, any other motions or comments or motions?
No, I agree. I just wanted to state that I appreciate your work, hard work, on looking at options for the community to have flights to different areas at an affordable price. Some would say affordable, but anyway, I
No trouble.
appreciate it.
That's why you hired me. Thank you.
Okay.
See if it shuts off.
Do they have to come back to us, though, to
Nope.
get approval?
What would happen from here, if you approve, I will get one piece of paper. We have a bunch of signatures on a couple of different pieces of those contracts in this process. I'll gather one and run through the whole process and get final signatures for everyone, including Redtail and then you guys, if you approve. Does that make sense?
This
So verbal approval on all of it.
This is putting you on the spot, but do you have any idea what that would increase the contract if they took advantage of the 30%?
Simply stated, it's pretty simple math. It's a $100 ticket one way, so that the very max it would be $130.
would be.
That wouldn't
funded.
change anything that we've done in fact, I should say that for the public's benefit. This red tail air comes out of Moab. They'll fly from Moab to Salt Lake to Vernal, Vernal to Salt Lake, and Salt Lake back to Moab. $100 round trip ticket, $100 one way from here to Salt Lake, and $100 back, $200 round trip. This was subsidized by budgeted monies that were already budgeted in the airport's daily function. I simply took a project that we had going and moved it down on the calendar, or moved it to the right on the calendar so that it would have a better place, used some of those monies from the airport's budget to subsidize this for a one-year contract. If this works, it's great for Vernal. If it doesn't work, we simply decide to let that contract lapse at the end and turn it back off and go back to work, and I'll refund that project that I moved later on, and I find that easy to do.
I would make a motion then that we approve the red tail contract and airport update of the 30%, from 10 to 30%, as presented.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Last thing, if you don't mind, it says red tail contract and airport update. Those are two separate things. So if you don't mind, I'll do an airport update if
Okay.
you're
We
ready.
didn't approve the update
All
yet.
right, you can approve or disapprove, either way, I'm good. By way of airport update and for the community, kind of popular, kind of not popular, depending on your approach, but I need the community again to know that this whole prospect of what has been happening with SkyWest and our regional service has been a lockstep process with the county commissioners, with the city council members, with the mayor, with the city manager, and it's been a long time coming. We have ground our way through this, and we've had high-level difficulties with the name Pete Buttigieg on them. He's the director of the Department of Transportation. That's where this thing was stalled until now. I need to very publicly say thank you to SkyWest. They've done a fabulous job. This year we will set a record for Vernal in commercial enplanements. That will be higher than it's ever been. And that's due directly to SkyWest and their actions. I'm grateful for them and for their help in making that happen here in Vernal. That said, SkyWest made some decisions throughout this whole process from day one that unfortunately rendered them unselectable for our next contract. That has been an ongoing kind of a process. That's part of the reason that this was a drawn-out process. 3 weeks ago, they made a third attempt to say, hey, we'd like to apply. It made it all the way to the Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation, being a federal contract, naturally said, hey, you missed the deadline by 8 months. This contract closed 8 months ago. Very, very difficult. They did try. They made noble effort. I'm so grateful for everything that they've done. That's the good news. There's other good news, though. We still were able, with that team of people, the county commissioners and city council members and me and a couple others, have worked feverishly to maintain a commercial flight out of Vernal. And not only have we maintained it now with the approval of this red tail, we've actually increased the amount of destinations to 2 from 1. So now we'll get some Salt Lake coverage, and we'll get some new coverage. As of today, the Department of Transportation, didn't happen today, but I'm just telling you today, the Department of Transportation has approved us a new airline. That new airline's name is Contour Airline. They will start on 1 February here in Vernal. They'll fly 12 flights a week out of Vernal to Phoenix, Arizona. They'll do that in very much the same pattern that we have the 12 flights a week from here to Denver. We'll have 12 flights a week from here to Denver until the 30th of January. So a lot of people have called me already. I don't know how the news got out, but a lot of people have called me and said, oh gosh, how did this happen and where did it go and what happened, and a lot of bad things in their minds. I just want to be very clear, and we'll put out a formal official press release on this, and we'll get it out to as many sources as we can to get the real news out. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment on the part of the Uintah Basin to figure out how do the oil and gas people get to where they need to go, and we've been very cognizant of that during this entire process, as all the commissioners and council members know. But I want the community to know that. Given these opportunities and no access to SkyWest, we chose the very best of what's available. I've been in continual contact with the CEO of this new organization. He and their organization are very excited to come serve this community. So he and I are also working on a possible third location. And I only say possible, and I'm not even going to say the location because it may not happen. But I do want people to know that, again, unprecedented. If we get 3 locations out of Vernal, Utah, I think that that's a great thing. So know full well that we had the community's best interest in mind the whole time. If you have questions about that, feel free to call that airport telephone number or call my number direct anytime. I'll answer them all, and I'll answer them honestly. This has been a long process that has been done very lockstep as a team with the county and the city and with many other people, even community members. And I'm proud of the work that's been done. I'm excited about what's going on. The only tough thing I could say is we'll have to make some adjustments as to how do we get to the places that serve us as a community best. But we're also not finished. We're going to continue to make good improvements here in Vernal, and I think you've seen some, but to be frank, I'm not done. So
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but on this one, they work with American Airlines.
That's correct.
So if you flew to Phoenix and connected on an American flight, they will go through TSA here,
That's
check
correct.
your bags, and then you're all the way through
That's correct.
wherever you're going. It would follow you through.
What you just described is what's called an interline connection. That interline connection is indeed a teamwork piece between Contour Airlines and American Airlines that does exactly what you just said. So you'd buy a ticket here, you'd go through TSA here, you'd go to your final destination, Oklahoma or wherever that is, and you wouldn't have to go get your bag. If in fact you left here today and flew on SkyWest and went to Denver and then flew on an entirely different unaffiliated airline, you'd have to do the opposite of that. You'd have to go get your bag and all those things. So those are rumors that are going around that could be seen as difficult, but when you really dig down to it, it's much like you just discussed in your healthcare piece. There's some positive pieces, there's some negative pieces, but I guarantee you we'll work our way through them. And if it doesn't work in the end, 3 years from now, or actually 32 months from now, SkyWest will have another opportunity to compete. I think that through this process, they've become a little bit smarter. They caused themselves some grief. And anybody that can read the newspaper is going to figure out what level of grief that is. It's large. But they've done such a fabulous job that 3 years down the road, I consider them a good competitor. And I've told the new CEO of this company, Contour, such. Let's compete, let's do these things well, and let's expand and grow.
Well, you made a special trip down there and tried to inform them
A couple of times.
a couple times, and it's too bad because, where was that 4 years ago before COVID with what was trying to build and put together when you first came on, I think about 4 years ago it was, I can't remember the time.
3 for me, but
3, but
that event was 4, yeah.
when you first come on and where we're at today is unreal. Hit the million, hit the employments, 1,000 employments, and here it is, we're at 1,100 and it's October. What has been built, and it's tremendous from what the struggles have been,
Yeah, we'll continue to
all
make
this,
more improvements too. We're excited about it.
It is great, so, all righty.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
All righty, resolution approving the transfer of an interest in all rights currently possessed by Uintah County. Eric Johnson. Eric Todd Johnson.
Good afternoon. There's 2 resolutions, they're related. So the Uintah SSD number 1 in 2022 went and got funding approval from the Community Impact Board. There were some hiccups that delayed things moving forward that have been resolved. But one thing that the CIB requires is 2 commitments from the county whenever an SSD borrows money, and this has been the case for many, many years. One is that because this project will involve roads, that you give an interest in the roads that are going to be repaired to the SSD for the term of the loan, whatever that is. And it's a maximum 15 years, but if they pay it off early, that interest will terminate before that point. The other thing is they make the county promise that you will continue to allocate enough mineral lease funds to the Special Service District to make good on any outstanding debts. So those are the 2 resolutions that are before you. As has been discussed on the transfer of the interest to the SSD, we'll make an adjustment to that so that what gets filed is consistent with the comments that have been made. questions, concerns?
John, you've looked over the paperwork on these, pretty standard stuff, is it?
Well, the concepts are things that we've done for years, and Eric prepares the documents and gets it in line with what CIB needs. So I have
The county is
complete trust
probably,
in what
yeah,
Eric
the
does.
county has probably done this close to a dozen times.
Yeah.
I will admit, the forms that were prepared were developed with Ed Peterson, and they haven't changed since, but the one form will change today, consistent with the requests.
All righty, any other questions, comments, motions? We actually have two resolutions there. I don't know that we can combine them into one or not, but in a motion, but
I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 10-24-2023 R1, transfer of interest of all rights currently possessed by Uintah County and the county roads in the Uintah Special Service District as outlined in the attached map, with the change to the assignment and conveyance, the comma after conveyance in the fourth line, and make a little t on that. It's the only change I've got.
Yeah, we'll just combine the two sentences into one.
Yeah, I had a question though on this. Both resolutions listed here, number 10 and 11, have the exact same number. Are they the exact same resolution?
No.
So it should have been an R2. The other one should be R2. Oh. Okay, sorry. My copy had R1. So we're just addressing R1 right now, correct? Okay, I would second that motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. All right, we need, do we need any other comments on the resolution, the next one, or can we go ahead and? Derek explained it good enough. We're good enough to make a motion there? Okay?
I think so.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution number 09-11-20.
Whoa.
Nope.
Oh, sorry,
Where you
I
at?
jumped down a line, excuse me. Resolution 10-24-2023 R2, is that correct?
Yes.
For covenanting to not impair the mineral lease revenues of the Uintah Special Service District 1 so as to negatively impact said district's ability to repay its outstanding bonds, including its $1.945 million mineral lease revenue bonds, Series 2023A, and all related matters.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
And Mr. Chair, just one point. In getting these signed, what I can do is I can, most of the documents are in the room just across from your commission chambers, from your offices. But in making this change, I'll get that sent over first thing in the morning. And then can I rely on the county clerk's office to get those PDFs sent to me?
Okay, so
Great.
you'll get the changes made. Will I electronic sign them, or what do you?
No, we'll just send a PDF that can be printed out, and then you just sign it. It has to be notarized, so it can't be electronically signed.
Okay, so I'd come to the mic and,
They do electronic notaries now, though, but this is not allowed to have that?
I haven't worked with that, and so I'm not, I haven't set up for that.
All right.
all righty. Well, thank you, Eric.
Eric, do you have that form where we can just get it? We can get it up to Karina and just make that change right now. Let me step out with Eric real quick, and let's see if we can just get that taken care of right now. Then we won't have any delay.
Okay.
Yeah, we just right there. Yeah, that was it.
Deanna Nyberg.
Oh.
Oh,
You've
geez.
changed since yesterday.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have
All
to
right.
deal with me
We'll
today.
go ahead,
sorry.
Matt, if we have to. All right. Rezoning.
We've got the one resolution before that.
Oh.
Did you want to do that one, or did you?
Well,
Yes.
I'd already said we'd done that one.
You
but I
did
guess
what I did. We
yeah,
marked
yeah.
it off and jumped down a line.
Hey,
So-
sorry.
Okay, so Matt Kazir with Community Development, and I'll be filling in for Deanna for the other ones down here. She had a training to go to. So this first one is resolution number 09-11-2023 R1. And this is allocating 15% of the optional 1/4% sales tax that was approved in 2019 to go towards active transportation. And so what we've got is this tax has been collected since, I believe, the fourth quarter of 2019 up to now. And it can be used for a lot of different transportation projects. But it can't be used just to like fund the road department, for example. It has to be used for projects. And so a portion of this sales tax has been being used to help fund the airport along with the city. And then the other portion's just been sitting there and growing over the last 3 years or so. And so what this resolution would do is it would allocate 15% of that money that's already been collected and move it to a separate line item that would be for non-motorized transportation, active transportation. And active transportation is non-motorized and it connects places together. So, and then moving forward, it would continue to fund 15% of that tax once the amount that's needed for the airport was collected and we made sure that that was covered. And that's really the gist of this resolution.
All righty. Any more questions, comments, motions?
Just to make it clear, this is not additional tax. This is tax that's already been paid and is being currently paid by
Correct.
the users through their sales tax.
Correct.
I'd make a resolution that we approve resolution 09-11-2023R1, allocating 15% of the optional 1/4% sales tax to active transportation.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. You're still on.
Yeah. Let me get my computer plugged in here so I can. Okay, the next two items are rezone applications. The first one is a rezone request. They're requesting to go from RA1 to R1. And the applicants are Edwin and Kathleen Forsman. And the property is located at 3355 West, 440 South, here in the Vernal area, and it's serial number 4123126. And this has went through the Planning Commission. They held a public hearing. There were no public comments at the public hearing, and the Planning Commission has recommended this for approval after that public hearing. So just to kind of give you, and I know we kind of went over this yesterday, so I'll go over it quickly, and then if you have questions, we can go over them. But this is located in the Cottonwood Heights subdivision. It's this piece that's highlighted here, so it is a corner lot. Overall, the Cottonwood Heights subdivision is, the lot sizes are very similar to what you would find in the R1 zone, and they're smaller than what's currently allowed in the RA1 zone. That's just because of when it was approved, and maybe the things were different or the zoning there could have even been different. But there is already some R1 zone in Cottonwood Heights, so you can see this green color. This is the current zoning. This green color is the R1 zone. So you've got some properties here that are R1 and some over here as well. And then you have one piece that's R2. The reason and here's the property here that we're talking about. The reason they're requesting this is because they would like to add on to the front of their house and have a covered front porch. And the setbacks in the R1 zone are 30 feet from the back of curb, whereas in the RA1, they're 35 from the back of curb. And I believe their current setback is 37 feet from the back of curb. So it'll give them the opportunity to put a 7-foot covered front porch on the front of their house. And that's really all because of the size of the lot already, that's really the only thing that's going to change. The The R1 zone does allow for up to a threeplex, but you have to have 18,000 square feet of property, which they don't have. So they would have to maintain a single-family residence in that zone. The future land use map does show this area going to an R1 type zoning as well, which is a requirement of the rezones. So I'll leave it at that for now, unless there's other questions on this.
What'd you say the planning committee come in with recommendation?
Yeah, so it was a unanimous vote, and it was to rezone this parcel to R1.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or motions?
I would make a motion that we approve the rezone from RA1 to R1 for Edwin and Kathleen Forsman at 3355 West, 440 South in Vernal, serial number 041230126.
You have a motion?
That's second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Okay, the next one is also a rezone from RA1 to R1. I'll get down to it here. This is requested by Yolanda Duran at 1145 North, 3000 West, again here in the Vernal area. Serial number 41023. Again, this was heard by the Planning Commission at a public hearing. There were no public comments at the public hearing, and the Planning Commission recommended to change a portion of this parcel to R1. So just the front portion up near 3000 South. This is the parcel here located on 3000 South. This is Mazer Elementary School, just to kind of get a bearing. This is 1000 North and 3000 West intersection here. So that's where it's at. It's 2.51 acres and currently zoned RA1. This is the current zoning, of the area around there. Most of Mazer is zoned RA1, residential agricultural. This is the parcel in question today, and you can see there's a few parcels, or 4 parcels there in that general area that are zoned R1 currently. The future land use map shows this area remaining residential agricultural, but there are provisions in our general plan that allow for higher density zonings in the areas of schools and commercial areas. So that's how these other 2 parcels, or these 4 parcels, were zoned to R1 using that provision in our general plan. So Planning Commission, they did have some concerns on this one, just because of the size of the parcel and the size that the lots would be in this parcel. They had some concerns with rezoning the entire parcel. And the reason that they are requesting the rezone is because they started building a house on the full parcel here. And once they've got it started, they realized that they located the house further south of the north property line than they wanted. And what that did is it made it to where it pushed where they would have to put the property line to divide the front parcel into 2. It pushed that down, and so it made the frontage go down to less than 90 feet. Which is the requirement in the RA1 zone. So the R1 zone difference is there. The frontage requirement is 80 feet. And the use differences are pretty significant, I guess, because RA1 allows for a lot of agricultural use and things like that, where R1 doesn't allow for that kind of stuff as far as agricultural or animals go. And then the R1 zone allows for up to a threeplex, where the RA1 zone allows for a duplex. So the concern was that Planning Commission didn't feel like this was a great area for a threeplex. So what they recommended was that these 2 front lots that would be split out would be approved as R1, and that that would be placed on the map when the minor subdivision was approved, so that they know where the lines should go.
Okay. Any questions, comments, motions?
So you're saying that the north part of that front piece, though, could still build a triplex there? If this is rezoned?
They could, if they wanted to add onto their single-family home that they're currently building.
Isn't that going to be two separate lots there, though, in the front? That would allow the single family on one, and then they could build a triplex on the other, correct?
Yeah, so if that lot ended up being 18,000 square feet or larger, they could build a triplex on there.
And there was no public comment on this? Nobody
No.
came? No neighbors?
We had some people call and ask some questions about it, but nobody came to the meeting to voice opposition to it. So the way that the way that they were showing this front lot to be divided, it wasn't going to be 18,000 square feet. It was going to be
Smaller?
It was going to be smaller than that. It was going to be large enough that they could do a duplex on it, but they could do a duplex in RA1 as well. So that didn't really change. The back lots will be large enough that they could do threeplexes on each of those
If we
if
rezoned
it
that
was
to R1.
rezoned to R1. So
So we're moving all of that lot to R1.
Well,
the recommendation from the Planning Commission was just to do the front portion up near 3000 West, and that the line would be put on there when this minor subdivision was approved.
well,
we don't wanna
my
put it
thinking is if no one from the surrounding area came and gave any comments to the negative, with it going all to R1, I wouldn't see a problem in making a motion to go with the Planning Commission's recommendation and do R1 for the front half, the east half, I guess, of the lot that you pointed out, and leaving the back as RA1.
That's just right in line with what the Planning Commission recommended.
Right, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, guess you're still on.
Yeah, one more thing for me, sorry. This is a beer license for Scooters Grub Group Incorporated at 3340 North Vernal Avenue. Serial number 0401400006. This is a Class B beer license, and it's for on-premise consumption only, so for restaurants only. So they can't sell it to people to take off premise. It has to be purchased there and consumed at the location. Let's see, the fees have been paid. The health department, since a business license was recently approved for the location, the health department didn't have anything that they wanted with this. And then I think we've got approval from the sheriff. He did have some concerns with some of the activities that were taking place there. Some, it's not drag racing, but burnouts, yeah. So, which they shouldn't be doing there anyways, because that's not part of what their business license is. So if we have issues with that, we can deal with those individually. And I don't want to speak for the sheriff either, but that was my understanding from yesterday.
Okay.
So.
All righty. Do we have any more questions, comments, or motions?
I'd make a motion to approve this Class B restaurant only beer license for Scooters Grub Group Incorporated at 3340 North Vernal Avenue.
All right, we got a motion.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're gonna move the public hearing,
Is that okay? I suggested that we move number 16, sorry. Brad, I'm not trying to take over,
nope,
if it's
nope.
okay. I suggested we move number 16 to the end and address number 17 and 18, and then go to number 16. Does that work? Okay.
okay. Number
Okay.
17. Truth in taxation, intent to increase property tax revenue by 5.653,500, approximately 73.11% for the purpose of continuing operations of county government and services. Mike Wilkins.
Okay, Commissioners, this all has to do with the tentative budget that's being presented. With the tentative budget has been out to the public now for over 2 weeks. We are looking at $5,653,500 as a tax increase. $5 million of that is for the general fund. $491,500 is for the library. Tort liability is $120,000, and the health department $42,000. Starting from the bottom now, for the health department, $42,000 is we're not collecting enough revenue to pay our contribution to them. Tort liability $120,000. Our contribution to USIP, and with all the reinsurances going up, we're going to be funding that out of fund balance to fund that. That's the most we can go on that one. And the library board has requested to go back to the not quite what they were back in 16. And then $5 million on the general fund. So just some highlights here. First of all, the last tax increase Uintah County had was back in 2008. County increased taxes by $3,486,000. In 2016, the county charged $13,761,000. In 2022, that number had been lowered down to $7,689,205, a reduction of property tax since 2016 of $6 million. Had the prior commission, adopted the certified tax rate, I could probably be pretty sure to say we would not be here today doing a tax increase. Let me give you a little bit about the process of creating the certified tax rate. Certified tax rate allows a taxing entity, the county, school district, cities, whatever it is, to bring in the same tax dollars they charged the prior year. So in 2016, we collected $13,761,000. We could have still continued to collect that same amount of money. But the prior commission chose to lower that because we was receiving, I'm not saying why, I don't know, they just lowered it down to where in 2022 we collected $7.6 million. All the one-time monies that we had in the tune of about $16 million is now been expended. Kind of got me again. Okay. From 2020 to 2023, Uintah County received from ARPA, COVID money, we call it ARPA, CARES money, LATCF monies. Basically, it was COVID money, $17,879,000. With that money, there was restrictions of what it could be spent for. With that, it is a discussion. I would recommend we probably take a motion to proceed, if that being the governing body's decision, to proceed with this. One thing it is showing out there, and this is what is required by law, we have to show what the agency being Uintah County. Uintah County is increasing our taxes by 72%. But the overall increase to a home, the way the tax goes is it looks at the current year values, our current year values, and then they take from there and say, what if that was the same exact values in 2024? So they back into the rate with the new tax dollars being requested. And with that, the tax rate on that one is adjusted to bring in, so on the average value of a home in Uintah County right now is $292,000. That home in 2023, right now as people are paying their taxes, would have paid $1,427.25. So it's not a 73% tax increase on your total taxes. It's only looking at, depending on where you're at, Ashley Valley Water, it's a 12.28% increase. Now I want to make sure also everybody knows The county commission is still working on this budget as of last Friday, and their intent is to continue to work on this budget right up until the time that we have to adopt. And I think right now is December 19th, 5th or the 19th, somewhere right there is where it's going to be. So with the new tax rate to bring in the money that the county needs to continue to operate, that same home would pay $175.21 more. Now, everyone should have received your property tax
$300,000 home.
on a $292,000 home. Now, everyone should have received their property tax notices over the weekend. Inside of them, there was a partial specific notice to your home and your property that you own that would have identified what your actual increase on your property is anticipated to be. There are so many variables still in that is undetermined until we receive values in 2024. Just an FYI, this year rates dropped substantially. They dropped because our centrally assessed values is any company that crosses a county line or a state line, the state tax commission gets to appraise those. So that's your oil wells. That's the power plant that has power lines going to Colorado all the way to California. So anything that crosses a county line or a state line is centrally assessed. That value this last year went up $400 million. It did not bring one dime of new growth or new monies to the county, as all these businesses are feeling the impact of the hot shots and everything that's going. Everybody's busy again right now. We as Uintah County as an agency received $0 for all that growth going on out there. But what it did is it pushed the tax rate down. So when computing a tax rate, what stays constant is tax dollars charged. If value goes up, rate goes down. If value goes down, rate goes up. The only thing constant is this tax dollars charged. As I go back, in 2016, we charged $13,761,000. The reason I keep wanting to go back to 16, and I was going to do a different presentation in 2 weeks. 2016 is the year the general obligation bond went into effect. The county could have collected $16 million something dollars, but we told the public that we are lowering the tax rate for the amount of the GO bond. We did that. The commission did that. They lowered it from the $16 million down to the $13.7 million. So the commissioners at that time did exactly what they said they would do. We lowered that for you, for the taxpayers, because now we're guaranteed to get that money, and it lowered our interest rates. It lowered it down to a 2.6% interest rate, true interest cost on the loan. But with that, so that's kind of where I'm at there. Do you want me?
Just one correction. Well, not
What?
really correction.
Comment.
When you were talking about values, if values go up, the rate goes down.
Correct.
That's not on each property. That's overall.
That's overall.
Overall.
We don't look and say, John Doe's house out there, we're going to tax them so much. We're going to tax that home $2,000 because that home is there. It's not how the tax rate is computed. It takes total value of Uintah County. From that total value of Uintah County, we take what does the county need to operate. In 2016, it was $13 million we needed to operate on. So the tax rate was computed. If value goes up, rate goes down. The only thing stays constant is that. But so we don't. So as the assessor goes out and reappraises property, value's going up. We don't get any new dollars from reappraisal. Reappraisal is your home is worth more today than it was a year ago. We all are dealing with that. Only time the county gets new monies is on the new home that's being built out there. This year, I'm going to pull this one off the cuff because I don't have it with me. We received about $48,000 in new growth money for the county.
41.
And again, that is just Uintah County. That's not the school district. That's not the state charter school. That's not Vernal City, Ashley Valley. All of those are different amounts that you pay. So we're not taxing somebody's home the same amount every year. value goes up on it, it goes down the other way. The rate will go down. And I could
It's
plug in
kind
and
of
show part of
confusing.
that if you want, because I do have a very simple.
A way to show people how that works?
To show people how that works.
I know that was a very hard thing to understand.
Yeah, it is. This in kind of puts it in a very elementary mode. If you're willing to give me 3 minutes and 10 seconds, that's what it takes to watch the video.
And is this from the state tax?
This is actually what UAC put out.
Oh. UAC is our Utah Association of Counties.
Whoop, wait a minute. I want that to go full screen. What am I hitting wrong here, Caleb? I want to do the full screen. It was working. I'll let Caleb drive for a second.
All right.
Can you make that a full screen?
Okay, I want to explain to you how you.
Whoops. Caleb, you let me
Never
run.
mind.
I didn't realize it was changing up there, so let's try it again.
There we go. It's full screen up there. Isn't it?
Maybe.
Okay, I want to explain to you how your property taxes are calculated based on how much your home is worth in the county that you live. Imagine there's a town that only has 3 homes, and they're each worth a different amount. And the total cost to provide all of the town's services, funding of local government and schools, etc., is $1,000. This revenue is collected through property taxes. Each homeowner pays property taxes based on how much their home is worth. The varying values of all the homes are added up. The town's cost is then divided by the total property value. This gives us the tax rate. The tax rate is applied to all the homes to get enough revenue to pay for all of the services. So each homeowner pays according to how much their house is worth. Every year, the home values are reassessed by the county assessor. Let's say all 3 properties have gone up equally in value. If we go back to our calculation, the total cost of services hasn't changed, but the total property value has increased. When this happens, there will be a decrease in the tax rate. Now, when we apply that new rate on all the homes, everyone still pays the same. Let's recap. Property taxes are based on what a home is worth. If reassessments of property values all increase equally, then everyone pays the same taxes as the year before. Now, let's say another year has gone by, and these home values are reassessed. During this reassessment, the house on the right became more valuable in the market than the other 2. The total value of all the homes have increased, which means the town has to calculate a new tax rate. With this new tax rate, the first 2 homes will actually pay less than the home on the right that was reassessed at a higher value. Since the cost of services hasn't changed, the town doesn't need to collect more property taxes. However, since property taxes are based on a home's value, those taxes could potentially go up or down based on the rest of the homes in the town. So, what happens when the cost to provide services goes up? Well, it means more property taxes need to be collected from every home, and a new tax rate is calculated. To get the new rate, we take that amount that the town now needs and divided by the total of the property values. The new rate is applied to all the homes, and now everyone has to pay the new tax amount to continue to fund all of the services. So let's review. 1. Property taxes are based on the value of a home. When homes are reassessed at equal values, each homeowner will pay the same amount proportionally as before. 2. When homes are reassessed at different values, each homeowner will pay a different amount proportionally based on how much their home increased in value. 3. When the town's cost to provide services increases, then all homeowners pay their share proportionally across the board in property taxes.
Hopefully that's answered some of the questions.
Warm in here.
So right now, with the budget as it sits, and still will be subject to change, that's what I definitely want to make sure everybody knows. It is still a working document. We've been working on this budget since August 17th, to be exact. We've met with departments multiple times. The commissioners have met on this budget multiple times, and still are meeting with the departments and together to discuss this budget. What more do you want me to go there, Sonia? Is that going to cover everything?
With what?
How much more do you want me to go into? So let me throw this, whoa.
Okay.
This is so when we're saying 73%, it's just Uintah County's share of it. The overall 175, and again, the tax commission makes us use the average value of a home in the county. Currently, right now, the average value of a home in Uintah County is $292,000. Your taxable value on that is $160,600. So everything is based off of that number. That's what we have to do.
I think that was good for now. We will have the public hearing on November 7th.
Right. Something here, this is a slide that the county treasurer went back and worked out. Over the last, since 2016, with the tax reductions that have happened over the last 7 years, the homes, and what we did, we picked the same average value of a home and took that value and kept it increasing as the values over the years went up. So in 16, they received a $61 decrease because of the GO bond went in effect and we lowered it. The next year, $10, 15, 20, 57, 0. This was the year they actually adopted the certified tax rate. This year, they just arbitrarily cut the taxes. Overall, $6.7 million over this same time period. So individuals, and that's, again, you're only looking at Uintah County's share. We can't speak for what Uniform School Rate did, school district, or any rest, but Uintah County as an agency has taken a reduction. This home, looking at this one, has taken a reduction of $278 over the last 7 years, 8 years there. At this point, we're looking at, we need to collect $175.22 more now on these homes.
If the budget stays as
If
is.
the budget stays as is. Now, last week, and I guess if we go into the budget, I can explain more of that one.
Yeah.
When we get to that point.
Okay. Yep. Is that good enough?
Okay, any other questions?
Don't we have to have a motion?
I would do a motion to show the intent that we are proceeding.
Okay.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we continue on and with the public hearing on
Correct.
the budget.
Truth and taxation.
Truth and taxation, number 17.
Oh, I thought we skipped that, okay. In truth and taxation, with our intent to increase property tax by $5,653,500, or approximately 73.11%, for the purpose of continuing operation of county government and services.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion.
I'll second. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to, number 18. Mike, that's you.
Yep.
You're still there.
Now, where do we need, okay, is that gonna fall in?
No, this is just this year's. Remember?
No, but I'm saying on the public hearing, you had us move down to,
Right, it'll
but-
be right here.
so it falls in place, all right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we okay?
yeah. Because then we'll have the two public hearings together, basically.
Small one, and we have handed these out to the departments.
Thank you.
They're out in the public.
It's just the changes to this year's budget that we needed to make.
On this, Commissioners, I have attached a letter explaining the budget. I don't know if you want me to read over that?
Mike.
Yes. Oh, we moved down? Which one are we going?
Yeah, the 2023 resolution, R1. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I have that also for you.
Okay. I'll give it to John. Thanks, or Brad.
Oh, you got one. Oh, okay, I thought there's only two.
Okay, Commissioners, sorry about that. Resolution 1023-23R1. This is a request to increase the budget. Commissioners, Fund 10, General Fund, we've received a grant or a contract with the state of Utah for CCJJ, it's pre-trial services. This is funded 100% from the state. And they have hired, and we needed to get this budget. We was waiting for everything to get done and then to do that. So with that, there's an increase in the general fund for this budget, $239,500, with revenue coming from the state for $239,500. The library has requested a $20,000 adjustment in theirs, and that'll come from their fund balance. Travel and tourism, an adjustment in their budget for $87,200, with revenue from travel and tourism from additional revenues that was received from the Balloon Fest, Phenomicon, and gravel bike race, I think.
And just to be very clear, this is for this year's budget.
That is correct. This is
2023.
2023's budget.
Okay. All righty, any questions, comments, or motions?
Nope. I would make a motion that we approve,
Hold on.
oh, that's got to be a public hearing.
So
Yeah,
we
we
gotta
have
do the
fun.
public
Yeah,
hearing.
Yes.
sorry. I
It's
just saw
okay.
that.
Okay.
We're jostling the agenda a bit, so
Yes.
it's okay.
Yes.
But yeah, we need to open it for public hearing, receive public comment, and then we
Okay.
close the public hearing, and then you all can deliberate in
All right,
motions.
help me walk through that. Are we gonna need a motion to go into public hearing? Is that how that?
No.
You can declare it as the chair.
Okay, we are going now into public hearing for the 2024.
2023.
2023 budget.
I'm sorry, got out of whack here, 2023 budget increase. And now that we're in public hearing, we take public comment on this
Yes.
at this time. If anybody has any questions concerning this and what the proposal is, they can come up now, comment. Okay, then we have to go back out.
Yeah, going once, going twice, just so we're confident
Yeah, going
nobody's
3 times.
struggling to get up.
All right.
Okay.
We're leaving public hearing at this time, and we're gonna go back in to have a motion of what has been presented on the resolution 10-23-23R1.
Very good.
And I'll second.
Oh, I would make a motion to approve resolution 10-23-2023R1, the 2023 budget increase as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Would
motion
you
passed.
guys sign one of those papers you have in front of you?
Process.
There's a lot of that stuff too, that there's been some grant work there again, and we appreciate the grants, people going after these grants, the travel and tourism,
Oh,
great work on a couple, 3 events that actually was very, very successful with attendance, plus the money they brought in. I
plus
guess,
what it helped do for our community, for restaurants, hotels, shopping, taxes, TRT tax, a lot of benefits to our community.
All right, now. Public hearing, but where are we at?
Now you're on number 16.
We go back to 16, public hearing, 2024 budget. Mike.
Okay, with that, Commissioners, I've attached this letter to you, to what you've got up there. Commissioners, presented today is the tentative budget for 2024 and the supporting information and about our process with preparing the tentative budget. Original proposal of the tentative budget was given August 17th of 2023. The tentative budget for 2024 shows a balanced revenues and expenses for a total of $76,940,100. This is a difference of $5,575,000 less than compared to the 2023 current budget of $82,515 and $523. Sorry about that. Expenses for the general fund for 2024 budget currently $36,099,800, which is $1,002,908 less than the 2023 budget of $37,102,708.
Million.
No, it's less. The current
You
budget.
said 37,000.
37 million.
Million, okay.
Okay, $37,102,708. We're currently using $831,600 from the general fund balance to balance the general fund budget. This is including the taxes requested for the proposed property tax increase in the amount of $5 million. Commission is still working on decreasing the overall expenses, but this is the initial request to increase property taxes for the general fund. We're currently using $471,200 from the municipal fund balance to balance the municipal fund budget. The expenses for the municipal fund for 2024 budget are currently $7,949,700, which is $1,146,985 more than the 2023 budget. The grants department has been moved from the general fund and is now included in the municipal service fund. Majority of this increase is the purchase of the sheriff's department patrol vehicles, estimated at $950,000 for next year. Also a note of revenue: the revenues from the local assistance and tribal consistency fund (LATCF), otherwise known as additional COVID funds, shows an over budget for the 2023 budget. The two LATCF disbursements were both budgeted in 2023 as revenue, when only one disbursement was received in September of 2023 of $2,931,000. The first disbursement was received in December of 2022 of the same amount. This presents an overstatement total of $2,931,479 that will not be captured as revenue for the general fund in 2023. Last copy of the 2023 tentative budget issued by the Clerk-Auditor's office was October 28th of 2022. The final 2023 budget was not presented by the Clerk-Auditor's office at the commission meeting on the December 27th, 2022 adoption date. The county is proposing in this budget a truth in taxation increase in the amount of $5,653,500. Breakout of the funds are below: general $5 million, library $491,500, tort liability $120,000, health $42,000, for a total of $5,653. The reason for truth in taxation is because property tax revenue overall decreased by $6,028,566 since 2016, also realizing one-time grants that were given to Uintah County from the federal government, which was valued at $17,879,857 between the years of 2020 and 2023, will no longer have one-time revenue. We will no longer have one-time revenue to help with the ongoing budget with current expenses proposed. We will not have enough revenues to cover the expenses without the tax increase. Major increases in the budgets are highlighted below. Wage survey was conducted around June of 2023 by an outside third party called Personnel Systems and Services, based out of Salt Lake. This collaboration involved Human Resources, the Commission, and all department heads. This survey contributes to the majority of the wage increases, but Uintah County is still working through this on the best solution moving forward. No final decision has been made at this time. A breakdown of the requested salaries: Fund 10, $1,277,000. Fund 11, $148,000. Fund 20, $126,500. Fund 22, $27,500. Fund 24, $1,700. 55, $118,000. 59, $18,200. And Fund 86, $6,100. It's proposed in this budget to reinstate at a 5% match to the 401k, a dollar for dollar match. No final decision has been made on this at this time. Breakdown of those requests for the 401k reinstatement: Fund 10, $617,415. Fund 11, $164,300. Fund 20, $52,170. Fund 22, $39,375. Fund 24, $3,255. Fund 55, $38,720. 59, $18,230. Fund 86, $14,755, for a grand total of that of $948,220. That would all be changed subject to whatever wages comes out to be. We've also tried to include in this budget the achievement and service awards that are already in our policy to budget more accurately expected achievement service awards for all full-time employees, years with Uintah County. No final decision has been made at this time, but a breakdown on that is Fund 10, $209,331. Fund 11, $59,488. Fund 20, $14,955. Fund 22, $12,917. 55, $16,494. 59, $10,234. And Fund 86, $5,907. Also in this is medical premiums. Originally, when we did this, we're expected at 7.8 to 10.46%, depending on which insurance provider the county decides to move forward with. Other things to note: as of September 2023, Consumer Price Index increased 3.7%. Again, budget is still open to input and is not final. Reach out to us. Now let's go to page 5 in some of them. Let's turn to page 6. It's either going to page 6 in somebody's or page 2 in others. We're looking at a total budget of $76,940,100. Let's flip over to page 8, or it's going to be page probably 3 or 4. And the other, and I would like to go through on the top left-hand corner, it should say Fund 10 General. Total taxes budgeted to come in next year is $16,918,800. Licenses and permits, $162,900. Intergovernmental revenue, $986,500. Total state grants, $2,452,900. Total charges for services, $703,900. Total jail revenues, $3,793,700. Children's Justice Center, $421,600. Street lights and public improvements, $4,739,800. Other miscellaneous revenue of $1,000. Total miscellaneous revenues for everything else, $804,700. Airport revenue of $14,000, and this is transferred as a pass-through down to the airport. Assessing the total contributions and transfers, $4,689,000. This is where the $831,600 from fund balance comes in, for a total revenue anticipated at this point, $99,800. The expenses on that: commission, $601,800. Justice Court, $390,000. Public Defender, $1,225,800. CCJJ Pretrial Services, $450,000. Human Resources, $397,200. MIS Department, $1,254,600. Excuse me. GIS, $481,400. Clerk-Auditor, $944,400. Treasurer, $507,200. Recorder, $859,900. Attorney, $3,051,900. Assessor, $1,190,000. County surveyor, $110,000. General miscellaneous, $905,500. Building and grounds, $1,254,600. Public safety complex, $809,700. Emergency services, $598,600. Jail complex, $8,647,400. Opioid grant, that's not opioid grant. That is a settlement from the opioid settlement that the state received. $151,600 is coming back to the county and have received those funds. Children's Justice Center, $496,100. Public Health, $39,200. That number will be adjusted if the budget increase is adopted, because that number will go to public health as a tax increase. Mental health, $193,700. Road department, $5,837,400. A note on that one, that does include paying off. We've been leasing graders for the last 7 years, Scott? 6 years. And they come due next year. We have to pay them off in the tune of about $1.3 million. Give or take a little bit right there. So that is included in that budget. Weed department, $235,008. Airport, $14,000. Buckskin Hills, $1,089,100. Cemetery funds, this is a transfer to the Cemetery Association, $409,600. Ag Extension Services, $225,000. Grant funds, $1,163,400. Economic Development, $325,800. Associations, $301,300. General fund transfers of $1,896,800. Termination benefit costs of $41,000. If you flip to the next page, we have the Municipal Service Fund. Between these two funds, between General and Municipal Service Fund, that is your main operations of the county. We're anticipating sales tax of $2 million. Licenses and permits, $55,300. Intergovernmental revenue, $3,683,000. Total charges for services, $121,000. Total public safety, $725,200. Total other revenue of $634,000. Use of fund balance on this one, $471,200. For a total budget for the municipal revenues for municipal service, $7,949,700. If you turn to the last page, this is where it's going to be spent. Community development, $950,600. Sheriff's Department, $6,455,900. Liquor law enforcement, $80,000. Street lights and signs, $91,800. Grants Department, $313,400. Termination benefit costs of $58,000 for a total of $7,949,700. So with that, Commissioners, I present the 2024 budget as it currently stands, realizing that we're still working on it.
All righty. Any comments?
This is where we've asked our independent auditor, John Hatterley from, I forgot the name of the company, Larson and something, to come up and explain the audit, just to help you understand that as well, because there have been some numbers out there, all different kinds of numbers, and we wanted him to explain the numbers, just the audit, just explain it. He, as far as I know, he won't be answering any questions unless they are questions about the audit, the numbers in the audit. And he won't be giving any opinions. He just will be explaining stuff to us and how to understand the audit. So, Mr. Hatterley?
All right, the commissioners just asked, I'm John Hatterley from Larson Company. They just asked that I kind of clarify some of the financial statements and where information comes from in the financial statements. So I'm going to plug in Where do I plug in? I gotta come over here. And it's gonna get boring, so I don't mind if you fall asleep.
You got 5 minutes.
Okay, it may take longer than.
Okay.
Okay. So just to start out with, there are different statements contained in the basic financial statements, and over time they have changed. So before 2000, 2001, 2002, all you saw in governmental financial statements were the fund statements, so how the funds were operating. Around that time, they wanted more accountability for the governments, so outside influences wanted to see what the government had as far as assets, as far as debt. So the first two statements that you'll see in the financial statements are the government-wide financial statements. For those of you who are accountants, this is reported on the full accrual method of accounting. That means that you report long-term assets and liabilities. The reason for these statements are really for external users to see like everything in the government combined into one on a full accrual method, so that they can do really for investors or lenders. So if you were to go issue bonds, your bond rating comes from these statements, because they're going to look at what your debt to equity and what your assets to liabilities ratios are. That's how you get your bond ratings. So that's who typically uses these statements. If you look at the next statement, this is your income statement, and governmental income statements look different than a private company. They are set up a specific way. The top section are all of your governmental funds, or how your government operates. In the first column is your expenses, and then your revenues that are specific to those functions. So if you get grants or if you charge for services, those revenues are then presented in the next three columns. And then that fourth column shows kind of the net revenue for that function, whether it's general government, public safety, your highways and roads. And you can see in that fourth column, most of those numbers are negative. So your governmental departments are not paying for themselves, if that makes sense. So that's what this is intended to show, is the government services provided by any government, they don't charge money to make money, if that makes sense. Then in the bottom section.
Excuse me, John?
Yeah.
Would you explain the parentheses around the numbers?
Negative. That means it's negative.
It just costing.
That's a cost, yeah. So positive numbers means positive balances. Negative numbers in this context means a negative balance. In the bottom section, so you can see the general revenues. So this is where we list all the property taxes, sales tax, basically all the general revenues that are collected by the government that really can go to fund any type of function. So what this statement really shows is the government really can't pay for itself, so therefore that's why you assess tax and things like that. You'll notice that most of the taxes are under the governmental activities. That's your general fund. If you have a business type activity, which it would be like the landfill, Western Park, water, sewer funds, they are set up like normal businesses where they charge. So you pay a power bill, and the reason why you pay a power bill is so that they can then go purchase power to provide it to you. They are charging that, and they are operating like a little business inside the government. All right, so you can see, I know some of the numbers that were floating around. The total change in net position last year for the government was $8.5 million. However, $4 million of that was attributable to the governmental activities, meaning the general fund and all of the governmental funds, and $4 million were attributed specifically to the proprietary funds, which are the landfill, Western Park, and the telecommunications fund. So that's the government-wide statements. That is what outside investors look at, and it reports the government on the whole. So typically when preparing the budget, this is what the commissioners are going to be looking at. This is your fund statements, and they always follow the government-wide statements. I'm going to get down to the income statement so that you can see kind of how things are broken down. All right, everybody read that? They're kind of, that's too big. Come on, shrink back down. There we go. All right, so the typical operations of the government are always in the general fund. Every county, city, typically every special service district has a general fund, and that is where all of the operations of the city or the county happen. The other funds that you see listed there, the municipal services, Class B road funds, municipal building authority, capital projects, those are all funds set up for a specific purpose, but all the operations typically happen in your general fund. So you can see last year in the general fund, and this is what I explained to the commissioners, just kind of helping you understand. You can see the revenues. These statements are set up on the modified accrual. So if you know what cash basis is, cash comes in, it's revenue, cash goes out, it's an expense. Full accrual is, you look at long-term, it's more of a long-term approach. This is kind of a hybrid between the two. And this is where people get confused in government accounting because it is different than every other type of accounting in the world. In fact, we have our own government auditing or government accounting standards board that sets the rules for government, and they are different than private businesses. So there are treatments on how things get treated in government versus private businesses. And you cannot compare, you're really comparing apples and oranges if you're trying to compare them like a private business. So these statements are the modified accrual. So you can think of it as the cash basis. So as money comes in, it's a revenue. As money goes out, then it's an expense. So if you issue debt, that's a revenue to that fund. The difference between these type of statements and the government-wide statements is when we convert them to the full accrual. For instance, if you issue debt, that shows as a revenue in the general fund or where municipal building authority or wherever that revenue comes in. When it goes to the full accrual, it gets taken out of revenue and gets put up as a liability on the balance sheet that says you owe this money to somebody else. Does that make sense? You're getting a crash course in Accounting 101 right here. One of the questions that the commissioners had was the one-time money from the federal government. That is the CARES money, the ARPA money, and the LATCF money. So that shows up in the general fund under intergovernmental revenues, and that is $12 million. So that's kind of money that you've been given over the last few years, as has every other city and county in the state of Utah. But that's not going to be a part of the picture. If you look at the net income of each of these funds, so the third line from the bottom, so in the general fund, it actually lost $400,000 last year. In the Municipal Services Authority or Municipal Services Fund, had a gain of $800,000. Class B road money had a gain of $1.6 million. Then there was a loss of $6 million in the Municipal Building Authority. So if you look over to the far right, you can see for a net in your funds, you lost $16 million last year. And you say, well, wait a minute, you just showed us on the government-wide statements that we made $8 million. Like, what the hell's going on here? The difference is all of the adjustments that happen from this is what you're going to look at on how the government is operating. But a lot of those revenues or expenses get taken out and get either applied to debt or get capitalized as capital assets that then get depreciated over time. The next page. So this statement right here shows a reconciliation between the government-wide statements and the fund statements. So you can see the $16 million loss at the top. And then all of these things are adjusting entries that happen to really put your statements on the full accrual basis. So let me go back to now the balance sheet. So this is your fund balance sheet, and if you look at net position, I think the other question that came up with the commissioners was the amount of cash that was available to the county. If we look at assets, in the general fund, you have operating cash of $12 million. If you come down to the fund balance section, you will notice that unassigned, meaning money that you have that can be used for ongoing operations at the end of 2022 was 15 million. And if you go across that line, there's no other monies that can be used for ongoing operation. All of the other money within the county has either been committed to a previous project, is assigned for certain expenditures, or has been earmarked already, or is restricted. The restricted money is restricted from outside of the county. So all of your Class B road money, so you had a large increase in your B road fund last year. However, all of that is restricted specific to road use. And the county can't do anything about that. That is an external restriction on those funds. So that's another significant part that we look at as part of the audit, and when we do trainings, is you have to look at what is the operating capacity of Uintah County. And it's not, you know, all of the cash that's in the county, because a significant portion of that, or even some of the money that's not restricted, has already been earmarked or tied up for uses in previous years. Is there any other questions?
So I think I asked this question when you presented this to us. That 15 million right there is unassigned, 15,695,000. That's not extra cash sitting there that we could just use. That is cash that we would be using to operate on 2023? Because
Yes.
this was 2022, correct?
So that is a net at the end of 2022. So rolling forward, that is the fund balance that's available to use for ongoing operations. So that is money that you can use. However, there are, you know, basically that's an offset of assets minus your liabilities. So you have to take the money that you owed to people at the end of 22, comes out of that cash, and then basically everything that's in that top section, so the 12 million, which is cash, there are taxes receivable, which you would have received in January or February. And then the due from other governments, I don't remember what's in that. That's typically like external grants that you had already received the money, or you already know about that you were gonna get it, but it came in January or February. So Class B road money type things,
Okay.
money from the state tax commission, sales tax.
And then, so you would say we typically receive about the same, or depending on if our tax rate changes or anything, that the top, that 17 million may stay close to the same?
It should.
Should stay about
I mean,
that.
what's gonna fluctuate in your general fund is sales tax. I mean, luckily during the pandemic, we really weren't affected in the state of Utah like other states. I mean, there were other states that were, there were cities and counties who were on the verge of bankruptcy. Luckily, we kind of came unscathed out of the pandemic. Sales tax kind of jumped right back up to where it was at. So based on the economy in Uintah County, that could go up or down based on, because you do collect a significant amount in sales tax. Property taxes are going to stay fairly even, or should stay fairly even, if your tax rate stays the same and the assessment on houses. I mean, that's why you have the video that Mike showed. So that, I mean, typically governments aren't going to change, I can't say materially because you guys, that's an accounting term, significantly from year to year, unless there is a change like in a tax rate or sales tax rate, or like if we implemented the road tax, then that increased the money that you got from the state. But that's really the cash at the end of the year. So that could significantly change, because if you've spent money, you know, this year, I haven't seen anything in 2023, so I can't really talk on that. But I mean, you might be at 20 million in cash, and you might be at 4 million in cash. I have no idea. But your assets can change. What's typically not going to change if you get down here to the income statement. So as Mike said, these first two columns are the typical operations of the government. That 37 million that is revenue in the general fund, if you take out the 12 million of the one-time monies, then you're operating around 25 million in general fund. That should stay pretty similar, but it's going to be based on your budget. I mean, you're looking at $25 million in expenses. With inflation, you know, probably they've gone up in 2023, I would imagine. But like I said, I don't have any data on 2023, so I can't really talk to that. But
I know that was something that someone asked me though, was that 15 million that showed there as of unassigned at the end, was that extra cash or, and the way I understand it, it is not extra cash, that is cash that we basically start out with the new year to operate on until, and we will get sales tax and other revenues coming in small amounts, but the big one usually comes in with property tax, more
Yes,
around
and-
December.
And if you do remember, there is a state code, so there are state laws surrounding the general fund on how much you can keep in the general fund. So you cannot go below 5% of your general fund revenues. So that has to be maintained as a minimum fund balance. And you cannot go above 65% of your current year revenue plus your property taxes. And the reason why they changed that law or the wording in the law, it used to just be the 50%. They've raised it to 65% because of the federal money that's coming in. It used to be the flat 65%. Because counties need to use that money throughout the year, you have to maintain that fund balance because you're not going to get a lot of your property tax revenue until the very end of the year. So whatever, you know, and the sales tax is going to come quarterly. So you have to operate the county throughout the year. So you need to maintain, and you probably need to go at least maintain 50 to 60%, because you're going to use that as operating cash as the revenue comes in. And then it's going to replace that fund balance, and hopefully you're right around the same place next year. The reason why they changed the wording to include and property taxes now is because everybody would try to stay under the fund balance limitation by the end of the year to stay within state code, but then you get this dump of property tax money at the end of the year, and you're over every year. So everybody was having audit findings because they were over in fund balance. And so now, because you get that revenue at the end of the year, you can include both 65% of your current year revenue plus your next year's property taxes.
Okay.
So that is really the equity that you have to use for ongoing operations. Everything else has been earmarked or tagged somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody understand that, and they can do their own accounting for the county now, right? Yeah.
Let me add, if that money was not there, Uintah County would be doing tax anticipation notes. That money allows us to pay our payroll every 2 weeks. That allows us to pay our accounts payable every 2 weeks. If we didn't have that money, then the banks are in business to loan you money. They do a tax anticipation notes. They anticipate we're going to collect $10 million in taxes. Zions Bank, Wells Fargo, all them, here, we'll loan you the $10 million because we know you're going to get it next December, but we're going to charge you 5 or 6% on that money. So we need to maintain a strong fund balance to pay the bills. I mean, you've seen today's check run. It was $2-point-something million. That just lowered a big chunk of that number. So that just, wanted to add that in there. That's why you have to have a fund balance there.
Any other questions? I'm happy to answer questions. I mean, if you feel free to call me and ask me questions on financial statements. Don't call me and ask me what you think we should do, because I won't give you an answer. I cannot give you information on that, but I can answer any questions on the financial statements, how things are presented, what numbers mean, what statements mean what. So I'm happy to answer questions and be a resource for anybody in the county.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
It is it's a public hearing, so this will be a public hearing. Are they what? This was the county audit, the 2022 audit findings.
It's on.
Yes.
It's online. All of them.
Yeah,
are.
you can actually go to the county website, or all of the municipalities and counties in the state are posted on utah.gov, or what is it? Auditor.utah.gov.
Yeah. But now we gotta open it for a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we need to now open it
hang on a
for
minute.
public hearing,
Oh, okay.
or does,
Yeah.
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 We already did that, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, come up forward and state your name.
Let there be light.
Oh. You have to wait till you get to the mic, please, so we can get it on the recording.
Please.
My name is Lloyd Dean, and I'm a property owner here in the county. And my question for the county budgeting process, I guess, is currently how much cash is on hand for the 2023 year. You're going to receive property taxes in another month. So I'm wondering how much cash is on hand right now for the continuing ongoing operations of the county. And I'm also wondering if we were able to fund the county at the levels we did last year, what has gone up to that 73% funding level that needs to be met this coming year? Is it the CARA money that's going away or the COVID money that's going away that causes that requirement to increase at 73% when operations should only increase at approximately the rate of inflation or the consumer price index? And those rates are somewhere around 17%. So I'm concerned about if we were able to operate last year on the monies we received, why do we need a 79% increase in those same funding level for this coming year? And I don't think anybody ever explained that well, unless it is just the COVID one-time grants that we received.
I think the Clerk-Auditor.
Answers, or are we gonna do questions?
Yeah, in a hearing, we can answer.
We do both.
them.
All right.
Yeah, I think the Clerk-Auditor will try to answer that question for you.
To answer your question, in the 2023 budget where we're currently operating on, there is one-time monies that was budgeted of 5.8 million. We only received 2.9 million. 2.9 was received in last year. Had it not been spent, as was explained, we spent 371,000 more than was brought in. So back to your cash, the other day when I looked at it, we're down to about 11 million. That was before this check run. And we have several transfers that have got to go from the general fund to the conference center and Western Park that still have not been made. I'm holding the money in general to make sure we have enough to pay everybody's payroll, not just certain funds. Right now I'm trying to watch the cash in all the funds to make sure they're liquid enough to pay their payroll every 2 weeks and the bills every 2 weeks. Did I get all of them there? I tried to remember them all.
The other question is, why do we use 79% increase?
Okay, first of all, it's a 73% increase, and it's only on Uintah County. So you just said a minute ago, the taxes was the cost of living is 17%. We're only looking at bringing the total taxes 12%. But the reason, okay, I can see where you're at there, but with the reductions that has happened over the last 7 years, lowering that tax by $6 million, we were able to survive on one-time monies. Now that one-time monies is gone. And so now we have to make that money up. Had they kept doing the certified tax rate, adopting the certified tax rate, we would not be here because we would still have that money coming in every year. But the prior commission lowered those taxes over $6 million since 2016.
Any other questions, comments?
Willis Lefevre, and I appreciate the explanations. That was a lot of money. It's not available. That was one of my questions. Actually, several of them has been answered, and thank you to the auditor. Yeah, that was a great explanation. Also, I would like to know, we've been blessed in Uintah County with lots of wonderful facilities, and I am so grateful for those. And I realize that these bring more value than dollars and cents. But from what I understand, there is a shortfall in funds on those operating. I would like to know what those shortfalls may be on those facilities. I would like to see us lighten the pockets of our visitors a little bit more to maybe bring those into line and let those covers. And also one of those facilities that may be a little bit short is the jail. I realize that got paid off last year, and hopefully that venture is working out and we're receiving funds from federal prisoners. And can those funds be used to the pickups that was done? And I also hear that the public safety complex is shorthanded, maybe even a full shift. Is that having an effect on our ability to manage that facility, or is that a venture to reduce costs? Maybe Sheriff Labram has some of those answers, as well as Mr. Wilkins. And then I appreciate you allowing me, or accommodating me as I sat through some of your budget planning, and I did learn a lot there. One of the questions that I have from that, there was one line, a statement made about lawsuits or investigations, and it was kind of glossed over really quick. I don't know what those lawsuits are, how many they are, or investigations, or I don't expect detail, but I would like to know how many and what they're about. You know, just a very high level. And also with all that, the legal work that's going on, is our legal team from a county sufficiently staffed and funded? I hear in the budget, you know, that number was pretty high, and kind of curious if the legal team's up to snuff. So, thank you.
Don't go too far, because you had a lot of questions. We may need to have you repeat some. We can start answering maybe your first one.
First question,
What
put
was
it
the
out there,
first
one
one?
at a time.
Yeah.
The first question, stand back up, go back to it. I had a lot of stuff scratched out that was already answered. The jail was paid off, and from my understanding was to bring federal prisoners in for revenue. How's that venture working, and can that money from those federal prisoners be used for pickups and the short staffing, or is the short staffing a planned deal to reduce cost? Is that too many?
Are you able to answer that, Sheriff?
That's kind of in a nutshell.
On the staffing part of it, I mean, that kind of lands with you guys a little bit. I'm down 1 patrolman, 6 in the jail, 3 controllers, and 1 nurse right now. And most of that's competitive pay. The state has raised their pay rate so high that we're just completely out of the game. And so I'm not competitive in my recruiting right now, and so I'm down. And we've had to send back some of our state prisoners because of I don't have enough staff to care for those prisoners, and we're hanging out liability wise, so we have had to send some back because of that, for that shortage.
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, we could use that money to offset costs if I had enough staff to house more inmates, which the prison would love to send me more inmates. Obviously, I just sent back some inmates, so they would love to send those back, but I gotta have enough staff to care for those inmates and not have them die in my custody.
Okay.
I did have one thing to add to that, though.
Okay.
We are looking at it with our budget to see how much we are figuring it costs per inmate, to make sure that that is a benefit to us. If we're losing money by having state inmates, there's no reason to have state inmates. We're subsidizing then. So, and we may be making money. I don't know. That's what we're looking at with the budget now, is to see how much it costs to run the jail and that, to see if the cost per inmate is beneficial or prohibitive.
Okay.
Well, and I have to have so many staff just to care for our county prisoners too. So my philosophy is we offset some of that with some state and federal prisoners, because we already got to have a certain amount of staffing to keep the lights on down there, and we're required to house our own county inmates. So it's kind of a catch-22 there in that process.
And I understand that, so it was made reference to about, I believe there was a couple $1 million more in increase for employees' benefits, one kind of thing. Is that part of the increase to help cover some of the things, like you say, the state's outpriced you?
That's my proposal, yes, that I've put in on my budget so that I can be competitive and recruit good people to work for me.
Okay.
And also, let me point out, in talking with the sheriff, as most of you know, I retired from the sheriff's office. We used to have inmates here that were very low maintenance. They weren't the high dangerous they are now. Well, judicial has changed a little bit. Now what he's getting is more prisoners that are involved in violent crimes. We're starting to see more gang activity in these corrections facilities. That requires more officers to make sure that we don't lose an officer or somebody gets hurt. Because I don't know about you, but if you want to go down to the jail by yourself and talk to some of those guys in the cell, you'll be lucky to come out. They're that dangerous sometimes. So it does require more people.
Okay. So maybe another part of that question, thank you, Steve. Another part of that question is shortfalls in other facilities. What does those look like? Maybe Conference Center or Western Park, or the jail may be a little short. Buckskin Hills, what are those shortfalls? And I would assume that the cost to bring those up, to cover those costs, is in taxes. What's those costs, do you know?
Can I put you on hold on that for 1 second? Because you
Okay.
asked me one other question.
Okay.
But Mike's going to answer your question that you just asked. You asked about cost of trucks.
Yes.
So we were leasing there for a bit. We had a couple of seriously dishonest things that went on with those leasing companies, and so we've moved away from that. Ken Garf is a state bid contractor for the vehicles, and so what we've done is gone to a purchase contract with a guaranteed buyback on the state bid price. So if you go out to buy, say, a Ford F-150 XL, XLT, you know, basic model, you're going to be 60, 70,000. I would say. I just looked it up on Google, and that's about the going rate for a pickup. They are sending us, which there has been a little bit of hubbub in the community about, we're driving some Lariats, we're driving some trim package Fords. That's completely on Ken Garf, and we're getting those trucks for about $61,000. They've guaranteed to buy those back for $50,000 after 2 years. So if you do the math on that, that's a pretty good investment for us when we can drive them for, you know, say 8 vehicles for about $100,000 over 2 years.
I'll take that deal.
That's, everybody says that when they find out the deal. How do I get on that? You can't, because it's a government state bid contract. And we're not replacing tires. We're taking them back about the time that they need tires. They don't need a transmission. You know, they're a nice vehicle, but we're getting a great deal. We're getting a steal, a lot better than a basic truck. So that's the why on that.
Okay. That sounds like a good deal.
The lease wasn't with Ken Garth.
Yeah.
In the first one.
I'm assuming Ken Garf wasn't the problem before it was?
No, they were providing vehicles to these lease companies because
Okay.
they are the state bid. And these lease companies had some great deals, and we were getting trucks for a great price. And some of our diesel trucks were incredible priced, but that was getting them in trouble because they were doing friends and family deals is what I was being told, and it was government only. So, but that's all in lawsuits, and I don't know the details of that, but that's what what was alleged.
Okay. You got an answer, Mike?
Also on those trucks, our intent is to, after 2 years, to sell it back to them. But we're going to put them on our the public auction website, and if we can get more than what Ken Garf is guaranteeing us, there's nothing in the contract that I remember checking in that says we have to sell it back to them, was there?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, so if they're going to buy it back from us for $50,000, if we can sell it for $52, $53, we're going to keep that money. And then that money will then turn around and buy the new ones. So it just,
Where other departments needs a new truck, you can't go and buy one for that price, right? So we could move that into another department for a lot less money.
Sell it to them.
now, how much is, let me go my general fund transfers right here. Currently, right now, in the budget as it stands, we're transferring $600,000 to Western Park to keep its doors M&O on it. We're moving $425,000 to the TRT, which is our transit room tax, which funds our tourism and our conference center. Conference center is funded with tourism and food tax. So between the hotel tax that comes in, that's your TRT tax, and the food tax, and $425,000 from the general fund, that is what is funding the conference center. The other one I believe you asked was on Buckskin Hills. Currently, right now, as it stands in this budget, it's about $900,000 loss.
And so those monies come out of taxes that could be used elsewhere if those were self-sustaining. And I realize that there's more value than dollars and cents, but at the end of the day, someone has to come up with the money. The last question that I had was on, I heard in the meetings that about lawsuits or pending litigation, investigations with all that's spent there. I would like just to know how many and what those are. And the second part of that would be on our legal team within the county. Are we up to date? Have we got people? Are we, because it seems like we got a lot going on there.
Commissioners,
John, you
I
want to answer?
can take that one,
How
yeah.
you doing on your recruiting?
Oh. I'll get there. I'll
Okay.
get there. I appreciate the question. Of course, we are in a public setting, and even if we weren't in a public setting, I wouldn't be able to give a lot of information on current litigation because that information is protected. But generally, we are involved in a lot of centrally assessed litigation right now. We have been for multiple years because of the highly technical nature of that type of litigation, and because all the hearings are out in the Salt Lake area, we have acquired outside legal counsel that takes care of that litigation for us. And that's been oscillating back and forth, but the county has taken a really big hit because of the way the state legislature has yielded to those lobbyists. And I'm just going to flat out say it. They yielded to the lobbyists, and if they were NASCAR racers, they'd probably have their patches all over their jackets. So we're getting our butts kicked on centrally assessed, and that is really affecting our locally assessed properties, which is everything that we deal with here in this room. So that's one thing that we're watching. Anytime you get a chance to talk to our representatives, and it's not our local, Scott Chu and Ron Winterton have been champions for rural Utah and the basin, but they don't have the votes. They can't get the votes to overcome the Wasatch Front. So there's that. We are involved. We have to keep quite a bit of money involved for any expenses that may come up in unknown litigation. Any lawsuit worth any merit whatsoever is going to be about $100,000, $150,000 in attorney's fees easily just to defend it. And that doesn't even account for if we lose and then there's damages. And then we have to come up with that money as well. Luckily, we've had the money in the bank account where we haven't had to do a tax increase because of a lawsuit and damages that have had to be paid. We do have, I don't want to raise this as a negative because there's so many positives, but you have asked the question. We do have to keep enough in our general miscellaneous litigation fund if at any time the tribal lawsuit flares up. That becomes highly, highly expensive, and we have found ourselves in about 3 different court venues from Salt Lake to Denver to DC at any given moment, and that costs a lot of money. Luckily, things seem to be improving. My hope is we can always improve those relationships. And just like any other government entity, we can work on those that we have common ground on. And if we have those items we need to litigate, fine, let's litigate it, but not let that affect those projects like the railroad, that we want to be able to walk hand in hand on those projects. But you asked the question, so I needed to give a fair answer on that.
Thank you.
Is that enough on the litigation? You can come stop by at any time. And anybody in the room, if you want to set up an appointment, my office is upstairs. Set up an appointment. I can, if you have questions about a specific case, I can talk about the public record of those cases, and I'm happy to do that. We have a very open door policy as far as we can with litigation matters. So is that enough for today?
Yeah.
on
I
that?
mean, it's a lot. I mean, and what you're explaining there is a lot, and that you're talking about a lot of dollars in reserve just in cases, but it's got to be
We
there.
do
I
have to have
understand
enough
that.
because we don't want to go back to the taxpayers and say, hey, guess what? We lost a lawsuit, which can happen. We lost on appeal, which can happen. In a current case that is now as a claim, it went through 2 different trials over a decade of litigation, and time kicked our butts on that one. And then we had to come up with the money. And luckily, we have enough in our reserves where we don't have to come to the taxpayers and say, hey, you all need to pony up money to pay for this. We've been able to financially take care of that with our own reserves. So let me get to the funding side of the county attorney's office. That was your next question.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the piggyback on Steve there and his.
Yeah, and staffing. So 2 staffing issues that the county attorney's office is going over right now. I'll deal with the prosecutors first. We have 5, currently we have 5 positions for prosecutors in the county attorney's office. Each of those attorneys are covering about 122% caseload. That is court numbers that are drawn. Those are objective numbers. That's not subject to interpretation. And so if you take all of that, we basically have 110% caseload out there that our 5 attorneys are having to fill, and we need another prosecutor, and that prosecutor would come on with 110% caseload. Now you could spread that extra 10% out and have that, but we have enough work right now that we're having to shoulder that with our 5 prosecutors. Put a pin in that though. When we go to funding, we are approximately $33,000 behind market on what we pay our attorneys and our staff. That is coming from just basin numbers. Just in case people are wondering, are we trying to compare ourselves to Salt Lake Valley, Wasatch Front, St. George, Cache County? We're not. I'll just pull from our direct competitors and our colleagues, but for staffing, they are competitors. The Utah Attorney General's office, they have been so woefully behind salary that most of my colleagues would say we would never work for the Utah Attorney General's office. They're paying beans there. Well, they stepped up to the plate, meaning the state legislature, and they said, we're going to catch up to market. They start a brand new attorney now in the basin at $112,000 a year. Duchesne County, after advertising for 2 years and not receiving any applicants, they finally had to bump their starting rate for a brand new attorney, brand new prosecutor with no experience, at $92,000. And they were able to find somebody, which is great for them. And then Vernal City, they created a new position in coordination with the Special Service District number 1.
Dutch John.
And Dutch John.
Naples City. They
Did
do
Naples jump on?
Yes, but only the civil work, not
Okay.
or the
But anyway,
prosecuting.
it's a conglomerate. I just wanted to put that on the record, which would be comparable to a well-established D2 attorney, so mid-level attorney. Hired that attorney at $117,000. So our D2s are at $88,000. We can't even recruit. We now have an opening on the civil side, which I guess for me, that it really is hitting me right now. We've been advertising now for 10 weeks. We haven't had a single applicant, putting a range from $79,000 to $112,000.
And you feel that's money, not location?
Well, money drives location, and location
that-
drives money, right?
obviously, yeah.
I mean, it just does. For example, Grand County pays their county attorney $177,000 a year to get somebody to even run for county attorney in Grand County. They're less than half the size of us, and that attorney is making about $15,000 more than our attorney, which, I mean, obviously they've had to do that to try and get somebody there and to run and fill that position.
And this is you're finding this out as a result of the analysis you've done that affected the budget and the increase of roughly $2 million? Is that?
Are you meaning the wage survey?
No, in the, what's proposed in the budget.
Oh, yeah, that's in there. I mean, specifically for the county attorney's office, we're looking for a 19% increase in our budget. And I agree with the CPI figures. It's somewhere between 15 to 20%, depending on where, which site you're going to.
What's the total? Do you have that?
For the county attorneys, it was about a $500,000 increase in the county attorney's office, which is about 20% increase on our budget. Now, that is on numbers that this ongoing hiring void that we're in, I'm working with the county commission.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to play out. Currently, I've sent an email to the commission that outlines all of this information, saying we gotta do something, because I'm not even getting a warm body with a law degree to apply for a job, and my standard's a little bit higher than that for our office.
I would hope so.
I did want to give a little bit of input on something that I just, not related to that really, but what I just found out today is we were looking at salaries in different counties that are similar to us, because we tried to look at similar counties in size, but what we hadn't taken into account was some of those are paying some of their elected officials $135,000 a year, and ours are at, I believe, $88,000, and one was paying, just gave a raise to $120,000 for their elected officials, but yet they are almost exactly the same size as us. But then there's so many facets to this that you can't just take that and say, oh, well, look, we should be making $120,000, because their tax rate is actually lower than ours, but their values are a lot higher. Yeah. They are collecting, I believe we were collecting 7 million and they were collecting 17. Is that correct? That's the difference. They're collecting 17 million where we're collecting 7.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that as well. So that's what I mean. Every time I turn around, it seems like I open another door with something new, and new information that you didn't know before. So we're trying to collect all the information and adjust things to where we think it's fair for our area. Because granted, like you said, where you live, I would choose to live here than maybe the Wasatch Front.
About anywhere else.
Yes. So, and that's all individual. They could choose to live somewhere else and take a higher pay, but also if you move out there, for instance, the cost of living is higher than here. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many factors that you have to look at when we're looking, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you. I think you got me covered.
Let me circle. I want to make sure I'm complete with my answer. Our office has been working with the commission to try and see if we can do these increases in a step fashion. We need to make sure that we're competitive, that we can get people to apply. I know we focused on the last 4 years, but for us being so backed up on our wages, this is a maybe even a decade-long process that got us to this point. We know as a county attorney's office, we can't fix that in 1 year. That's a massive lift, and we would never ask the taxpayers to do that. We are asking for some understanding of where we are. Business owners know this. If you lose a great attorney, which we actually just did, she moved to Wisconsin, and I will always be proud of her, but I will badmouth her whenever I get a chance because she decided to be adventurous with her new husband. Whatever. But somehow we got to replace that. And if we don't have the wages, we got to fix that first. And Jamin and I and Anthony Wilcox have looked at this and said, let's hold off on asking for the new attorney, because if we're not even competitive in our wages, we're going to continually be chasing that before we can even fill a new position. So we're taking a very, hopefully very level, very stepped approach with all of the financial people in the county to see if we can get ourselves at least mid-range. We're not looking to be paid like you can in the private sector, but we got to be able to retain attorneys. Just wanted to make sure I completed my answer.
Yeah, I gathered that in there, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
I want to follow up some of his questions. When we started this budget process back in August, whenever it was, we were looking at over $6.5 million increase. So we've brought it down $1 million. We're still looking. So
Didn't we come up with about $1.8 million Friday?
well, we've just about got the fund balance covered, the usage of fund balance. We haven't even come up enough to even stop using the savings that we have to try to balance it. I mean, I want to give credit. These commissioners are working hard on this, but they also realize what's been handed to them, and we gotta, and the free money's gone. All the ARPA CARES money, it's not here anymore. It's
And
been spent,
inflation
it's
hit us.
gone.
And inflation hit us.
And
at the same
inflation's
time.
hitting us.
Okay, I think there was another question.
Come on up.
Come on, James.
No new lawnmowers at the cemetery. Okay.
My name is James Sharp. I manage the Uintah County cemeteries. Because one of the questions with the man in the back was this $5 million, and as I read this letter, correct me if I'm wrong, $3 million total of this is money we don't get coming in anymore. That's true. So when you ask what's the $5 million like, I don't understand half of what you even, or even a 10% of what you said, but the basics of like $3 million of this $5 million total is literally money we don't get anymore, that the federal government isn't giving us. So, I mean, I realize that, so I guess take into a perspective that they're asking, we've operated on it, they're asking for more, because I don't want to pay more taxes either. I don't. I'll be honest, no one does and stuff. So it make sure that's correct. And also, us as county employees I make a very valiant effort to go local. Tires, jobs. We make it when we bid jobs to where they have to show up and actually be there, not some recruiting office that comes from out of town that we send all the specs for. Like we have tried to make it to where local businesses that are paying taxes get the tax revenue. Because, and that's something that I would like to say that, I mean, Scott does it too with the road department. Like we try our hardest to be within a competitive thing for local businesses to make sure the tax money stays local. And so I want to say that like as county employees, we try not increasing budgets. We really don't, whether it's pay, but our cost of just basic running on equipment, one of our utility vehicles in a 9-month time went up from $17,000 to $19,500, $2,500 in under 7 months when we requested a price. This isn't something that's been in our control. We would love to not have to buy new equipment to do our job and stuff. But I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because that was part of his question back there, I think, that gets too funneled in there, that like over half of this $5 million increase is because we're no longer getting a free handout from the federal government. And we have to pony up, or what, as the public, do we not want to fund anymore? I don't envy your guys' situation, but that was my question of making sure that $3 million almost, or $29 million, it's $3 million bucks, let's be honest, and stuff, is because of the fact we're not receiving care funds anymore. And that's a very simple explanation, because I don't think it's radiating of why we're doing this. We don't have the money coming in anymore. The federal government's not ponying up for the money. They spend it everywhere, and they're going to blow it somewhere else anyway and stuff. But I don't want to raise taxes either, like I really don't. But I realize as county employees, we are trying to make sure money stays local. I mean, we how we rent things, how we buy things, like we go local as much as possible. But it's also within reason. We have a responsibility that if we're spending local and it's 25% more, what would you want to do us with tax money? You'd want us to go the cheaper option so we control costs. It's hard, and we all try doing it. So I guess that was my question, Mike, was making sure that was clarified. like seriously 60% of that $5 million is, of the increase is we don't have it anymore, and they're trying to make up for it. So I guess that was my main question.
Okay. Any other comments?
It's Wayne Semper, I'm a member of the public, I guess. So, just a couple of questions. I haven't delved into this whole lot. I want to commend you guys for doing the wage survey. I recommended we do that a year ago, and I think it's a good thing we did it. I think the county is salaries are way under what they should be if you're going to try to hire people. Benefits, on the other hand, I think you're way over on your benefits. So when I start looking at this budget and we have $1 million requested for 401k increase, I don't think we should do that. I think our benefits are very good in the county. People want more money. They don't want more benefits if they had a choice. Just my opinion. Question on the B road funds. Maybe Scott can help this. I see there we had an increase of almost $1 million in Scott's budget, and I heard him say that was for greater payoffs or something we had to pay off next year. Can that money be taken out of B road funds? That B road funds hasn't been touched. That fund's huge and just sitting there. Is there a reason we can't use that B road
It
funds?
can be over time, as they do work, they can charge. Scott, you're probably better than this to, you know, but we,
Look, I mean,
you know,
can
to
we
buy 'em, no.
manipulate that money somewheres? I mean, he can use that money for road fixing and take this general fund money and pay the leases.
We do use his money, B-road money, for fixes in the road. We
How much is in that
already do
account right now? Mike said we hadn't even used it or something. There was quite a bit in
We're
there that
gonna,
had
we're
been
gonna
used.
buy the graders through a revitalization fund that we have. That's money that's not set up and accounted here. We feel like the grader's gonna be about $1.3 million, Scott, right? We feel like we can go to CIB and leverage the revitalization money. We're hoping 50%, you know, so CIB should fund us about 50% on the graders, and then we'll use revitalization funds for the other 50%, or we have to go to $1 million, whatever it is, we have the revitalization money to use there to pay for the graders.
But is that $1 million part of this,
Well, we have
what's
to
in the
figure,
budget?
we have to figure
put it in.
paying
We have
for
to-
him
we have to put it in
until
there,
we
pay it
see
for 'em.
what happens.
But then we've got this revitalization fund that was set up for us to help pay the expenses for the tribal work that's going on, because we don't get any mineral lease money. It's not near enough. They've promised to get us some more money. We are up to $2 million this year, and which is great, but you know, it comes in every year, but we're hoping to get that increased, you know, so, but the money to pay for the graders, we're hoping will come from CIB, which is mineral lease money, and it should fund the graders part of them. You know, they're shorter on money, then the other part will come out of the revitalization.
If we could take that $1 million out of that fund, we just solved 20% of your property tax increase.
It's more complex than that. I wish it was that easy. In order to use B road on a project, the road department keeps the work card on every piece of equipment and every employee that's out there. And so then they come back and they tell me, we put 12 hours on this XYZ road. We use this equipment, and I believe the book is Data Quest is what it used to be called. But there's I don't know what it is now, but every piece of equipment, according to B road, you can charge at a certain rate. So ultimately, over life of equipment, it will pay for it. But it can't go out and buy it, because if we go out and buy it with B road, then if we take it and use it at Buckskin Hills, now we're charging general fund for the use of that equipment. But if we buy the equipment with either revitalization funds, and that is in here, we're hoping to get money from revitalization to purchase that. So in a roundabout way, the equipment it's just like you and your business. You buy a grader or whatever it is, you're going to bill that out over every time you use it at a certain rate. That's what we're doing on our equipment. We're billing that to B road. So that money's then rolling back into, I'm showing 4.9 million something coming from B road funds. One reason the B road funds has increased is 3 years ago we put on a 1/4% sales tax for roads and trails, airport. Currently, right now, that money has only been being used for airport, thank you. The airport. So the rest of that's just in that fund. It can't supplant B road. It can add to B road expenses. So if there's I don't want to have people coming in to come pave our subdivision, but if there's a subdivision with sidewalks and curb and gutters that's there, if we need to replace it, we can use that money. But is the county got money? Yeah, but does so many of it have a string right? You can't spend that money for that purpose. General fund money can only be spent on anything the county wants. Municipal service fund. What the municipal service fund is, any service that the cities provide, we can't charge our residents for it. That's why our grants department, cities have their own grants department. You're going to see our law enforcement in there because that was a compromise that was made with the cities back when that law went into effect 25 years ago. That law went into effect. They wanted us to put our road department in there. And I said, okay, we will, but we're going to put a toll road on every road leaving your city limits to get into the county. So they said, well, we don't want you to do that. So compromise is the sheriff department, because cities have their own law enforcement. Sheriff department, who has jurisdiction countywide, is in the municipal service fund. Our street lights, the street lights you see out on your yard, not your yard light, but the street lights, they're all paid out of that one. Our planning and zoning comes out of that municipal service. But that, again, that money has strings. It can only be spent for municipal type services. We currently fund that with PILT taxes, with PILT, which is payment in lieu of taxes from the federal government, which is about $3.6 million, I think, this year. And we're putting $2 million from sales tax on the unincorporated part of the county. We receive two separate sales tax. We receive 1/4% that is countywide for any purpose the county, that goes into the general fund. And then there's we get a percentage of 1% that is only collected on the unincorporated part of the county. Cities get theirs, we get ours on that. So that money can be used for these municipal type services. So that money's kind of we can either put it in general or municipal service. But in order to make this balance, we move that there because we can do a tax increase for the other. So what's in the B road fund? B road fund, I haven't got that. I'll bet you there's good 12 million, 13 million in there. But I know we contracted with UDOT to put a bridge in. I mean, we're trying to capitalize that money everywhere we can, but again, we're balancing his budget other than the outright purchase of the equipment with B road. Now he's got to make sure he does work on B roads and not non-B roads that we can't charge to B road. So yeah, there's money in B road, but it can't be spent just anywhere we want.
Okay, any other questions?
That's all being paid for B road.
So you can't even spend all the B road funds you get.
Oh, he's doing his best.
I think he's jabbing you, Scott. I'm not sure.
No,
I
I'm
couldn't
not
hear all
jabbing
that.
Scott. I'm jabbing the commission for not making sure this gets put in there and get that money used up somehow. If I'm in a business, I'm going to find a way to pull that money out of that fund and use it if it's there. I know
within the law,
I know when Cheryl goes down to CIB to get loans for road projects, it's always a black eye on our face. Well, you guys got $16 million sitting there. Why don't you use that? Why are you down here asking us for money? We need to try to use that money and get it put away somewhere where we can and help reduce this $5 million that you're trying to get out of the taxpayers. I just received this notice today in the mail. My taxes next year on my business is going up $1,143. That's on my personal business. Do you think I'm going to eat that? Every person that uses my business is going to have to pay that money. So you guys say that you're only going to raise the money so much per household, but you're not taking into account all the other businesses are going to have to raise their fees and their cost to pay for these taxes as well. So you're costing the taxpayers in this county a lot more money than what you're saying you are. By the time you tax all the businesses, everybody else is getting taxed on this stuff.
How are we
What's that?
charging more? We've already told you we're collecting 5.6. It comes from all of the property taxes.
I'm saying,
which is
mine
commercial
mine
and
alone is gonna go up
residential.
$1,143 next year.
If we
That's
pass
gonna have to
what
be.
we said.
Exactly. And that's gonna have to be paid by the rest of the community as well. It's not gonna come out of my pocket personally, because I have to raise my rates now and everything else, and every other business is the same way. So all you're doing, if you're, the residential homes, which you guys are focusing on, get the 55% reduction. Businesses don't get that. Businesses are the ones that's gonna get hurt with this tax increase.
Everybody will pay more because it's an
Exactly.
increase.
Exactly.
And it's proportionately
It's
split.
not proportionate, because
It
businesses get
is.
charged 100%.
Well, I know, but you've been paying 100%. We're not raising that 100%. You're still paying 100%, and the homeowners are still paying their same percentage, but they will both go up.
Right.
I own businesses too.
I know.
I'm gonna see the increase as well. So we know it's not anything anybody likes to see, and we don't wanna have to do it.
As a comment on that one, totally agree. We pulled up the largest taxpayer in Uintah County, which you can guess is an oil company. There's a $448,000 increase. But these decreases they've made over the last several years, those companies are the ones that receive the benefit of it.
Yeah,
You
but
and me and our homes.
I agree with that, but we were overtaxing in the last 5 years. We built all this surplus money up. We put the money back into the taxpayers' pockets, and now if we come to the conclusion that we're going to have these, which I haven't got convinced yet that we need them, but we left the taxpayers where the money should be left is in the homeowners and the taxpayers' pockets, not in the county's coffers.
Okay. The Tooele had this problem several years ago, Tooele County. They have that big sports park. They didn't bother to, they almost went bankrupt over their sports park because they didn't fund it. The overall, so the ones that have been receiving the benefit of the tax decrease has been the businesses. The homeowners haven't received it. You received a little bit, but I'll bet if you went back over the last, in fact, I challenge you, go back from 16 to now, you're paying less to Uintah County, a whole lot less than the $1,000 that is going up. So you've received that benefit over the years. And now it's to point, and I guess we're here, is the budget, that's what it is. If you can come up with a suggestion where to cut, I'm sure these commissioners would be more than willing to listen to you.
Yeah. Got another idea. Let's take revitalization money and pay for old Sparky's cars over there, and there's another 980. Sorry, Steve, I had to wake you up. We gotta get some entertainment going on.
There is a problem with using that revitalization money, is that it's one-time money. It's
It
not
comes every
on.
year.
Well, it does come every year, but if we used it for his trucks and the graders, then we've got to use it, we can use it for something else the next year's, but it's one time for that purpose. You know what I mean? It helps. Well, they're ongoing. We will have to get new vehicles. We will be getting new vehicles.
Commissioners?
Yeah,
We got a lot of side conversations, and the commissioner trying to talk to somebody in the audience, and Ty's gonna throw something at you.
All right, Ty, sorry.
All I'm saying is a lot of these are one-time fees. If we can find someplace else to pull that money from, so we don't have to raise these taxes, because once you raise these taxes, it's $5 million every year you're gonna collect from this community. We don't need to be collecting $5 million every year from this community for one-time charges for $1 million for sheriff's department or $1 million for the road department. Use these revitalization funds or use this B road funds to budget this, to balance this budget for this year. And let's see where we're at next year at this time, if we've made it or not. I think the county's got in well enough, I mean, you could tell me this or not. Is the county in good enough financial condition that we could sustain a one-year loss of $5 million?
Last year, if you pull the one-time monies out, it was about a.
Leave the one-time monies in.
Okay.
No, we
Well,
don't.
they're gone.
It's the COVID money he's talking
The
about.
COVID money. The COVID money's gone. And as Mr. Hatterley showed you earlier in the audit, let me get to that page of it. The county technically last year, if you go by fund, B Road, all these funds, we lost 15.8 million. Now, we paid off debt last year. That debt was supposed to bring us federal inmates. We haven't received 3 or 4 federal inmates, and they're gone because we can't find the staff to even bring them more. But also with paying that off brought ramifications. This one-time money, this ARPA money, had strings attached to it. There's 3 things you could not do with any of that money. One of them was pay pension liability. You couldn't use it for that. Second, you could not lower property taxes. Last year they lowered the property taxes over $3 million. Third thing they could not do was pay off debt. They did that. Right now, we're in a hold pattern to see what the federal government's going to do. The federal government could come back and say, we want our $9 million back that you used to pay that debt off. Hopefully they don't do that, but they could. So one of the findings in this audit, made that a qualifying audit on that part of it, is you did this with the money. One way to repair, when you have a finding, you have to do things to try to fix that finding. One way to fix that finding is put the taxes back on because you violated the agreement with that ARPA monies. I know what you're saying, $5 million a year, but right now, one-time purchases, all you've identified is the graders, which we're hoping to get out of revitalization funds and the CIB. $400,000 for the cop cars. Now, the next year we're hoping we're going to have the trade-in value on the cop cars we just paid for today. So hopefully we're only spending $10,000, so we're paying $100,000 for cop cars in 2 years from now. So that's why this right now currently has $400,000 in the municipal service fund. We're trying to use that money there to buy his cop cars next year, but we got to buy cop cars again the next year. He's eventually going to have to replace these graders that we're paying off. There's 8 graders. They're already 5 and 6 years old. We're going to have to start replacing those. We're buying 3, 4 new. We've gone out to CIB, received money that is going to be a loan, $990,000 loan, 0%. But now we have to start paying the payments on that, which will come out of B-road because we can charge that as the usage of the trucks are used. We can use that money for it. So the commission is doing everything they can. I can see this one-time expenses, but eventually, if you keep spending if you keep spending your savings every day on a losing thing, the county's revenue is property taxes. Everybody hates them. I hate them as much as everybody else does, but that's how the county funds its operations. And when they were just arbitrarily cut $6 million since 2016, we're in a catch-22. We're at that point.
Any other comments? It is now 6:10. Come on forward. Boy, you move like I do.
He's moving pretty good, though.
Yeah, that's what my orthopedics guy says.
Yeah.
Jeff Scholl, not really anybody special. I just had a couple questions and a comment. The one thing is, what I'm hearing today is that there really is no plan B. You know, you want to raise that bridge or lower the river, but it sounds like you're just trying to replace that bridge instead of either one. When I personally decided I wanted to move here as part of my retirement, I looked at a lot of the things that was attractive to this area. I also looked at the things that needed to be added to this area that would make it so much better. I have not seen anything since that time that has told me that Uintah County wants to grow and progress. Now, let me give you one example. When we decided to move into this area, one of the things that we really felt was necessary in this area was something like a Costco or a Sam's Club type of business where people could come not only from the Vernal area, but from the surrounding areas. We did a geographic study and we found that within about 150 miles going into Colorado and Wyoming, central Utah, down to Price, there wasn't anything that was accessible for those people to do that. I personally reached out to the Costco folks. They weren't even interested in doing it, not even in a Pocatello style business. I reached out to Sam's Club. They said, we'd love to come here. If Vernal City will help us get the land and work out an arrangement for us, we'll be glad to come in here and put this business on there. We'll have several hundred employees plus millions of dollars of revenue that could be generated by that city and county. I forwarded that to the county people at the time. I forwarded that to the city council and mayors. Not a thing was done. I'm really at a loss as to why the county and the city tends to want to be business as usual type of operations instead of trying to think ahead, other than the airport, of how we can get more revenue into this area. Quite frankly, I'm disgusted and frustrated that you guys have not been proactive in trying to solicit those things. Let me give you an example of what happened. I lived in the Orem area, grew up there all my life. The big business was Geneva Steel. And if you're old enough, you know what happened to Geneva Steel. It shut down. Orem City had almost no way of generating revenue. So instead of crying the crocodile tears, they decided to be proactive. You know what they did? They built business parks. They're better than the likes of WordPerfect, Novell, and several other businesses that helped to diversify their economy. Orem's a very thriving place now. Right now, the same thing's happening out in Lehigh. They built those silicon slopes in order to generate the revenue and create the business base that they needed to get the tax dollars to conduct themselves and the needs that they had for that community. The question I have for you guys, why aren't you doing more?
I would say we are. You're forgetting about the rail. We have fought hard for the rail. That will bring a lot to this community.
Do you know what's
It'll
going to happen to that
diversify
rail?
this community if it comes.
Okay, do you know what's going to happen to that rail? They're going to be
Nobody does.
they're going to be transporting what? Primarily,
Probably oil. That's what it's contracted for.
which is now being done by whom?
Trucks,
Truckers.
right?
What's going to happen to those jobs?
They're still going to be there.
You think?
I know they will.
They have to truck the oil to the
They have
rail.
to truck it to the thing.
Yes,
They're not going
it'll
to be
still
long
have to be
haulers.
trucked from the rail to where it
Right.
needs to go.
And maybe not the full extent that they are now.
I bet you my bottom dollar that you're going to lose jobs over that.
Well, most of the truck drivers I see are Maverick, and they're from Salt Lake, so they're hauling the oil over there, but we could, no doubt about it. But the aspect of it is you say we're not trying, and you look at what railroad's a big deal. Go out and try to create a job. Go out and try to create a job, see what it takes. It takes a lot to create a job. I've been in business my whole life. It takes a lot to create a job. We've been aggressively going after the railroad. The innovation hub down here, the combination with us and the Vernal City, has created some jobs, some outlooks on some positive things. Keeping your taxes low. Make us a place that's attractive to come, and we've done that. We've done that. We've left the money in the taxpayers' pockets. That creates jobs. The more money they have, the more money they spend. We have been aggressively looking and promoting. We have a tremendous economic development guy in Travis Campbell that is out there, and we are aggressively going after everything. We are hindered a little bit. Our location, we've went after container builders for ships and all that stuff over the years. Anything that we can look at and, to bring some industry in. So for us to say, you come up with one idea, boy, tell us. We've
I just gave you one example.
We've aggressed business parks,
that I
if
forwarded
there's a
you
need out-
guys, and they got ignored.
You know what's interesting? I have contacted Walmart about 5 years ago, and they said not until you get a lot more people. And that's from the Sam's Club people. That's how come we got a bigger Walmart right now.
Initially, that was the response I got until I made sure that they understood this is not just Vernal City. That's Roosevelt, Duchesne, Dutch John.
Rangeley. Yep.
If you take all that in, I've done studies on this as well, because in real
And you're
estate,
talking
I
about a
represented them.
large community. There's a large portion of people here that will commute down to Provo and Orem to shop. They shouldn't have to do that if you provide the opportunities here.
I
And it
believe we
creates
do. I believe we do.
It really increases your economic base, and I think you guys really need to step up and do more.
Well, I believe we do because we can't tell them how to look at the demographics and decide whether they come to an area. They have their own formulas. And I do know that what you're talking about, yes, we draw on Wyoming, Colorado, and over to Duchesne maybe, but that is not the numbers that they were requiring to put a store here.
And they told me the opposite.
Well,
They
that's
said,
the last time
they said
checked.
specifically, I talked to one of the big bosses.
Then why don't
on the
they
corporate
come to
level.
us if we have the numbers?
I gave them the number, I gave them the contact, I gave them the information, and there was crickets chirping.
I have not heard anything from our
You
economic
weren't elected at the
development.
time.
I wasn't. Well, I haven't heard anything from our economic development, and I haven't received any calls. So
Okay.
I
Maybe it's time to start the process again.
could be. We're willing to look at anything. And the other thing I was going to say about rail is, do realize oil is the main contract that the rail, I think, was to be funded by.
Right.
But look at the opportunities of what else the rail can do for us. Can bring in so much different, it can bring in a lot of different products to our area and ship products out of our area a lot more affordably than we can with trucking. And it can bring manufacturing to our area. It can bring a lot of different industry that will grow once we have a rail that can transport things more affordably in and out.
And that's a remain to be seen kind of thing. But right now, you guys rely on two industries, oil, agriculture.
Well, we got the gas industry and then
Tourism's up
tourism. You
considerably.
look at
Yeah, you look at fossil
what
fuels.
Leisha's done for the expansion of tourism and all of us.
Right.
I'm gonna give her most credit. She does the work. The expansion we have done with the new things that have been brought into town in the last 6 years. Balloon Festival, four-wheelers. I can't even tell you all of them. Phenomenon. And then you look at the sales tax income that brings in. We're up $1 million this year in brand-new sales tax. Not all of it off that, but it's great. You know, the tourism we have made in this, we are a destination for tourism. And you look at the movement that we have done there in the last 5 years. And terrific. Conference center over there. You go down there at the Western Park and the conference center and the ice skating rink. What does that bring into our community? And yes, you know, is it ever going to break even? No. You know, but you know what? It brings people in. It keeps people here in town spending their money here and promotes it. We've got its wonderful facility. What they're doing over there and with that is adding more revenue. The Buckskin Hills out there. Look at the mountain bike race that's been started 4 or 5 years ago. Snow Hill. Look at the things that, you know.
OHVs.
Yeah, OHVs, the races that, you know, that has been created in the last, I guess we need to write it down, but 6 or 7 years, what has been created around here that's new for economic development. And it's from great people, Alicia, Tracy, Mel, these people that have run these. You know, even Sam at the library. What he does at our library over there is a benefit for the whole community and draws people in for our community. You know, and you just look around, and so we have done a lot. And every angle we have thought of, I'm not saying we've not seen them all or what they are. We have went after aggressively and tried to promote, start, and keep going. I think the gas industry and how we need to get our gas out of here, the pipelines and stuff like that. We've been a support for these companies to come in here and look at ways to get our gas out of here, markets for these gas. I don't know of an area that we haven't looked at, and I'm sure there is.
Right, okay. Well, I appreciate you. I'm just, from my perspective, that's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing, I know it's nice to have an ice skating park. I know it's nice to have a rodeo grounds. I know it's nice to have a convention center. And it's kind of a hit or miss type of proposition. It's not a steady income revenue. What I'm hoping you guys will do is to look at some opportunities and be aggressive in opportunities to cater to those people and get them here, to start up those businesses. And tell them this is the place to do. The big draw was with the Silicon Slopes was the quality of life. They offered a good quality of life, and that's exactly what you guys have here that you can sell.
Well, and I think we've shown that, and that we've done that as far as the people have moved here, working for homes. I don't know what the numbers are there. You know, 7 county, us as county commissioners have aggressively went after the road through the Book Cliffs to drop off into Moab, bring those people up from there. You know, there's no better place, a little rough in the winters, but no better place than Vernal, Utah to live out there in the country. And it's, I think it's why you can't buy a home out here.
Well, that's why I moved here, was because, you know, the multiple factors and stuff. I couldn't buy a home in Uintah County for what I could have bought one here. And that was a good draw. My wife came from Colorado, and she can't believe the difference. She's like, we go down to Salt Lake, man, I can't breathe. You come out here, man, it's nice to be able to breathe again. So we've got a good quality of life. We just need to sell it more.
I did think of one other thing I forgot to mention. When I was at the city, which has been 6 years ago, I think, 7, we were talking with companies about coming in, big companies like Sam's Club and that, about coming in, and a lot of them said the numbers would pencil out. They felt confident. It was finding employees. Employees was their biggest problem, because we don't have a college, we don't have anything to base for service industries, and that was the sole reason they would not come here, is because they did not feel they would have consistent employees. When the oil and gas field does well, that's where most everybody goes, because it's good paying jobs, and they would not be able to staff.
And that's one of the other things that Orem City did was they took a lot of orchard lands and developed it into homes. They weren't so Naziist on people being able to develop lands and putting in subdivisions that created that, you know, that base where you can employ and stuff like that.
I think we need to pull on something more like students, college students. If we could get a little bit bigger, some kind of even small housing for students, overflow students from Utah State.
And those are the type of things that would be definitely beneficial.
Yeah.
The other thing I had is and I'm going off of the notice off of your website here. It talks about the $292,000 residents increasing from $239.29 to $414, or $174.94 per year. In talking to your people, they were trying to represent that as a 12% increase.
On the overall taxes.
But this is a 57.7% increase. That's a lot of increase in a property tax.
Where'd you get 57?
If you take the numbers, if you take the the 435 and the 753, or sorry, the 239 and 414, that's a difference of 174. That's 57.7% of what you were paying previously.
72%. Yeah, it's actually 73.11.
Yeah, if you divide the 239 by 414, you end up with 57.7%. That's the increase over what you were paying previously.
I don't think that's calculated correctly. Oh, it's the percentage.
Yeah, see, because if you took the 239 and you doubled it, that would be roughly 480, and the taxes are going to go up to 414. So that's a significant increase.
It's a 73.11% increase.
For a homeowner.
Yes.
And capitalizing on what was said before with Mr. Simper there, you know what that's going to do to the revenue base. That means I and my family are not going to go out to eat as often. When we go to the grocery store, instead of buying a full grocery cart full of food, we're going to put a few things back on the shelves, which is going to diminish what you get on your sales tax. So, you know, you're paying Peter to pay Rob and Peter to pay Paul.
Well, we don't look at it that way, because a lot of people will go find a second job or a part-time job or something on the side to possibly make up the difference, because they've also been hit by inflation. It's not all us.
Right. No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, the bottom line, is this necessary? Do you really need to nail it to the property owners and the business owners. The business owners are affected, yes, but guess what they do? They pass it on to their customers. So that means what? The customers are going to have to decide whether they really need that product or service or whether they can do without, which is what going to do what to those business owners? It's going to hurt them as well. So, you know, Wayne was right. You know, this is a trickle-down effect that affects everybody. So you raise this to thinking you're going to get more revenue here, but you don't realize that's happened to that little guy that's down below.
We do.
And they're going to be hurting.
We do. That's why we take this very seriously, and we are looking at everything as carefully as we can. We have spent countless hours, and we will continue to spend countless hours until we feel like we've done everything we can to come up with either a small increase, a larger increase, or no increase. It's just we're gonna work on it. We're gonna continue to work on it, because the last thing we want to do is raise taxes.
Well, you know, for me, I don't mind it going back to where we were pre-COVID, because that's when those extra dollars came in to help fund the, you know, the shortfalls with the economy. As a property owner, if I was paying $1,000 in taxes in 2020, I would, if they restored that back to the 2020 level in taxes and paid that $1,000 again, knowing that I got a cut for those few years, I wouldn't be here griping.
That's exactly what he said we're doing.
But what's going on is it's an increase
But
over
not,
what we were.
did you hear what Mike said about how much we decreased them over the last 6 years, and now it was $200 and something, and we're increasing $174. We're not even bringing it back to what it was.
Well, I'm gonna have to go back and double check the numbers, but from what I notice on my notice, it's quite a bit more than what I paid when we first moved here. And we moved here in 2020.
Yeah, that's another thing I don't know if Mike explained, but as far as, a lot of people have asked me that because their taxes went up this year. And I'm like, well, the rate didn't change. It should be the same that we are collecting, but it depends on when your house was assessed. And if your value went up when your house was assessed, you would be paying more taxes than someone who hadn't been assessed, so their value hasn't been changed. That can cause some of that difference in people paying more in taxes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and like I said, I think there's other ways you can try and fix those problems besides, you know, just raising everybody's taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are looking at those.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Kason Goodrich. I have another meeting, so I'm not going to be able to ask all the questions, but I do want to ask Tonya about the compensation analysis. You know, I understand it's hard to, when you're looking at that dollar amount, 80,000 versus 117,000, that can be tough, but also the government, like Wayne pointed out, has excellent benefits. I work for an organization that I make a lot less than I could if I went to work for Zions or Wells Fargo, but the benefits that I receive are a lot better. So I want to understand the total compensation from your numbers. You know, what is that in benefits? You proposed to increase the contribution, if I understand correctly, and clarify this, for your HSAs to $3,000. Private industry doesn't do that. Your 401k matches, private industry, we just went through this with the organization that I'm with, and the benefits folks are saying, do you want to keep contributing to 401k? Because private industry is going away from that. They're not matching anymore. So there's a lot of services and things that the county might give to employees that private industry isn't receiving. And when you look at the total compensation, I really want to understand what is that for the county.
Is that your only question?
I have others, but I have another
meeting. Oh, okay.
That's the quietest you've been, Case.
I have to leave too because my wife's got to go to that same meeting.
So our compensation survey was not a total compensation. It was based on base salaries, and we brought in multiple counties based on the company that we contracted to do the survey. And so that's where all of the salaries were computed, was on a base salary, not on a total compensation, if as far as the salary survey portion of it.
And I really appreciate that clarification. And I would just say, as you look at the increase that you want to give to employees, consider the benefits that you're paying as well,
right,
in that total compensation.
I do know, Kason, I wanted to look because some jobs have been pointed out as, and a lot of them are market-driven jobs as well. We aren't going to try to be at what the oil and gas is paying on certain jobs because they pay more right now. But I looked at some, and just for instance, I thought I would pull up a truck driver because they're in great need, and there's a lot of CDL drivers needed out there. And I wanted to see how we compared. Right now, we pay a starting truck driver $22 an hour plus benefits, which does not include a 401k right now. I was able to pull up 5 companies just like that from Indeed here locally that are paying starting at $24 plus full benefits, including 401k. So I didn't feel like we were overpaying as far as that job goes, but we can look at all of them, and that's what we'll try to do as we go through this process and make sure we're not. But at the same time, I keep stressing to people, what we pay people to work here, plus benefits, has to equate to a place they want to stay working when the oil and gas gets better. And they pay much more, and we can't go that high. You know, it's more of a secure job, the benefits, the other things that keep them here instead of making more money.
Right.
And we're trying to balance that so that we're not paying too much, but we're paying enough to.
We're paying a fair wage.
Yes.
And I completely understand that. And by the way, I don't want this to seem like I'm attacking the reason. Wage increases, everybody wants them. I would like it. But in my industry, I have to meet metrics in order to do that. And we have to make money in order to do that. And so the other thing is with the budget, or not even with the budget, but just the audited financials, look at the services that we provide in the county. And they might be really great, and I benefit from them, we all benefit from them. But when the cost of those non-essential services is so great, are they really something that we should be looking at? Or is it better served with private industry? The Recreation District and the Uintah Parks and Recreation combined lost $6-some-odd million last year in the audited financials. Western Park was $1.35 million that they lost. What is being done and how are the directors being held accountable to go out and get business and make those more profitable, bring them closer to a balance? Those are not essential services. Public health and our law enforcement and fire, those are essential. And taxpayers should be happy to pay for those kinds of services. But there's a lot of non-essential services that we have in the county that lose a lot of money, and I don't see people going out and selling those services. The recreation center, has anyone who owns a business had them come and tell you, hey, we offer discounted memberships if you purchase them as a business? They don't go out and sell that. But if I was running the rec center, I would be saying, hey, this is a service we offer. We ought to be going to every single business in the county and offering a wellness plan to every single business in the county. It doesn't happen. So the funds that are coming in and the funds that it costs to run those things are very, very off. So that's all I have to say. I have to run, but thank you so much.
I would like,
Jason, thank you.
would you like to please come in and visit with us about
Yeah.
those other questions?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Anybody else? Okay, good. We're adjourned. No, anybody else? I apologize. Anybody else? All righty. Where are we?
Had to close the public hearing.
Yeah,
Okay, we need
Chair, you
to close the public hearing at this time, and we'll be back in regular commission meeting,
And then we have public comment.
and then we have public comments again. Okay, seeing no one? Okay, and then I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah.
We adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, 6:30. I expected it to be later.
No, I never really talked to anybody that was gonna come.
Good catch, Ty.
You know what I'm saying?
They were gonna come and they
No,
didn't?
that weren't.
Oh.